Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 3 Point Weekly. Today, we're going to be joined by our typical Boston Celtics fan to talk about the almost comeback that the Celtics almost had. We're also going to talk about the Lakers and how they move forward in the postseason in the offseason after a very rough end to their postseason. And we're, of course, going to be discussing the ongoing NBA Finals, where Denver, at least through Game One, looked to certainly be the better team compared to the Miami Heat. But we're going to start with said conference finals, and we're going to start with said Boston Celtics fan and Tyrik. How do you feel about your conference finals performance from the Celtics and almost pulling off the first 3-0 comeback?
Man, too soon, too soon. Nah, but I mean, it was optimistic, like that they gave the fan base like hope of pulling off something that we have never seen before, 3-0 comeback. But getting yourself down 3-0 in the first place was kind of like the issue. The troubles at home just continued from last postseason, which was just something I didn't expect to be as dramatic as it was. I mean, I think 4-5 was the record in the last 9 home games in this postseason. So those struggles were definitely tough to see. It was tough to see Jaylen Brown struggle so much. And I feel like we left this series with a lot more questions about the future than any type of optimism. I mean, obviously, losing to an 8 seed is not good, even though Miami's played sensational in the playoffs. But you're really getting beat by guys like Caleb Martin having, a career series, and Max Strus shooting the lights out, and Duncan Robinson having a resurgence. And it wasn't even like Jimmy Butler and Bam having those big-time games down the stretch in that series. So that's what's kind of frustrating as a fan. But it was tough, especially Game 7, Tatum getting hurt like in the very first minute of the game, which is very gut-wrenching. And it definitely seemed like he can never just get his rhythm because of that injury. But you would want other guys to step up, and that didn't really happen. So Miami definitely deserved to win that series. It's tough to win 4 straight games after losing the first 3. That's why we've never seen it before. And we probably won't see it for a very long time, if ever. So it was tough, definitely. But, you kind of deserve that when you go down 3-0 and you kind of quit in Game 3. You kind of deserve that outcome. It just happened a little later in the series, and I think a lot of people expected.
Dude, I was convinced that the Celtics had it in the bag. Like, after Game 6, because, we saw with the Raptors last year, went down 3-0, and, you win Game 4, and it's like, all right, gentlemen sweep, and then it's Game 5, and it's like, oh, like maybe, but surely there's no way. Once the Celtics win that Game 6, and I'm like, oh, it's tied up. Even looking back at every other, like, attempted 3-0 comeback, every time it went, like, down 3-0 and they went to 7, that team that was coming back, I believe, always had to go on the road, or like they lost, like the higher seed would end up winning because they had that home Game 7. This time it was Boston completing the comeback on their home court. And so for me, I was just like, hey man, like that just seems set up for success. Like I really don't think you can get too much worse than that. But they did not come out to play, man. Obviously the Tatum injury is going to be huge, but for a team as deep as the Celtics, like I really thought other guys would step up a lot more than they did. I know the big narrative was about Jaylen Brown being necessarily terrible, but a lot of other guys really did not show up as well. Pretty much from top to bottom of the roster, there wasn't a ton of good things to look at, and so it just leaves them in a place where it's like, this team was really good most of the time. Like there was a lot of really good pieces, but they just underperformed. So, like you said, like with the whole questions thing, it's just a lot of I don't know. I don't really know how to judge it.
Definitely. It leaves a lot of uncertainty heading into the offseason. And I don't want to make a ton of excuses for the Celtics, but obviously heading into that Game 7, they were far from healthy. You mentioned the Tatum injury. Brogdon was banged up for the majority of that series. Robert Williams reportedly was not healthy for that Game 7 either. So they certainly weren't coming into that 100%, but I mean, I'm sure Miami probably aren't fully 100% right now for all the postseason basketball they've played either. Point being, like you said, Gabe, the guys just didn't show up the way they needed to Game 7. Full credit to them for winning 3 in a row to get to that position. The fact that they had to be in that position was the problem, like you alluded to, Tyrik. Being down 0-3, regardless of who you're playing in a postseason series, it's going to be pretty near impossible to come back from that, and that proved to be no different for Boston because regardless of how good of a team you are, it's tough to win 4 games in a row against any postseason team that's out there night in, night out. There's a reason why we don't see that many sweeps, regardless of the teams, regardless of a round. Never mind to do that when you're already down 0-3. So credit to Boston for coming back to getting to a Game 7. But ultimately, they just put themselves in too much of a hole early. They didn't show up early enough in that series. They just didn't look like a team that wanted it as much as Miami did at too many points in the early part of the series. And ultimately, that just ended up being their downfall and continues to be the reason why Miami moved forward for another day, because despite the fact they don't have the biggest names and they don't have the biggest talent, they have some timely performances, like you mentioned with the Caleb Martin, like at times from a Max Struess, like at times from a Gabe Vincent, like at times from a Kyle Lowry, like at times from a Duncan Robinson. They've had enough secondary guys that have good enough nights to keep them going, and they just compete at a level that most teams don't match, and that's continued to be enough for them. Whether that's enough against Denver, we'll talk about that more later, but it certainly was enough, at least early on in that Boston series, to get them over the hump.
Yeah, and anytime it was a close game, they were ready for those moments. They were prepared to make winning plays, to always get a good shot offensively. And Boston wasn't. And that zone defense was also a very big part in slowing Boston down late in games. And, of course, when you have Jimmy Butler, even in a game like Game 6 where he started off like 3 for 18 or something like that, like he finished the game strong and pretty much gave them a chance to win that game besides Derek White in that game winner. So, they definitely earned it. And Boston, they got a lot to learn about themselves. Obviously, they got to learn, like, just because like Milwaukee got knocked out early, that doesn't just mean you got an open path to the finals. Philly almost beat them, so this team definitely is far from being a championship caliber team, even though they were 2 games away last season. So the offseason is going to be interesting. I know, like, Brad Stevens already said, like, he plans on Jaylen Brown being back. Like, they want him to be back. We'll see what the contract will look like if that's the case. But there's a lot of moves to be made, I would think, for this team in order to, propel them back to get into the finals and ultimately winning it all.
Yeah, I thought the end of that game 6, like I said before about just thinking the Celtics had it in the bag, like that seemed like such a momentum shifter. And like you said, the end of game 6, like Jimmy finally started to turn up after not really being on for a couple games. Everything looked like the Heat were going to take it right there in game 6. Even when the buzzer sounded, I didn't even think, like, one, it was on time, and 2, I wasn't even sure if it went in. So then, like, looking at that replay, and it's like, oh, shit, like, the Celtics stole that. I was like, oh, that shows some resiliency. Like, that's a moment, right? And that's just, like, one of the things you would remember if they would have came out and won that series. To come out flat in game 7, it was just tough, and dude, that Jaylen Brown Supermax contract is rough. That's such a tough situation to be in because him being eligible for that, he's a great player. However, I don't think he's a player that you want to be paying a Supermax. And so when it comes to the negotiations, like, if I'm him, I'm probably thinking, like, I've been one of the premier players on taking this team to the finals. Had games where I was the best player on this team in a finals, running the conference finals almost every year. Like, they've had a ton of success with him as one of the primary reasons for it. And so if they don't give him that contract, it's like, I feel like that just kind of forms a division, especially when it seems like there's already a little bit of a division there and people aren't sure about how he feels. So where that could really lead to just some troubling, like, locker room stuff in the future, or maybe he wants out in the future, and just the rift that would cause puts them in a really tough spot because it's like, do you lock yourself into that much money, which limits what else you can do with your roster, assuming Tatum also gets a deal that big because he probably will? Or do you just find the best way to move on without your second best player? And either way, it's a hard question to really answer because what is really out there that people are willing to give up that's going to keep this team in a position to compete, because you don't want to flip Jaylen Brown for, like, future assets. You're a team that was just in the finals last year, a game away this year. I mean, going for the future is not really going to be what you want to do. So I don't really know if there's a world where you can move off Jaylen Brown and still get a return that's like, yeah, I still feel just as confident about our chances to win a championship.
Yeah, it's a weird spot for Boston, and they're not the only team that's experienced this over the last few years. It's just at such a more inflated number now because of the continuing rise of the cap. But the whole supermax and max contract era of the NBA has been really weird for that, because now you get guys like Jaylen Brown, and he's better than some other guys who have gotten big deals like this, like Tobias Harris or Zach LaVine. But you get some of those guys in that middle tier that probably don't deserve that much money, but you need to give them that much money to retain them. And it's an interesting consideration when you consider max contracts and super max contracts was, well, when you consider the fact that the initial reasoning, or a significant part of the initial reasoning of them becoming a part of the CBA, was so that small market teams could retain their stars instead of having them walk. That hasn't really rung true. So that purpose hasn't really helped these small market teams. Either they stay because they want to stay, or they leave because they want to leave. They ain't really staying for these supermax contracts. Instead, you're now getting situations where Boston are going to have a really difficult situation on whether you want to give Jaylen Brown a 5-year and projected around $290 million deal, or you're going to have to move off of him because that level of handicapping for your roster construction alongside Tatum, and now even more so with the new CPA, you're not going to get a mid-level exception at this point with the type of money they're going to have tied down. It makes for some really interesting decisions in a world where if they didn't exist, Jaylen Brown would probably still get a bag, but it might be like 35, 40 million a year and not like 50 to, by the end of his contract, over 60, potentially 65 million a year. So it's an interesting scenario. It's going to be a tough decision for Boston. I don't know if there's a right answer. I don't know if there's a clear answer because, like you alluded to, Gabe, how do you move off of him and improve the roster without just accruing future assets, whether that be picks or young players? But then at the same time, you re-sign him, building a roster becomes very, very difficult because now you're literally just minimum contracts and draft because you don't even have a mid-level exception anymore with the type of money they're going to be paying under the new CBA. So a tough decision. I'm glad I'm not making it, but all the power to Brad Stevens to make it over the next few months, because that is arguably going to be the biggest decision in the Celtics organization and how successful they are over the next 5 years.
I mean, paying anybody close to $300 million to play basketball is kind of like, it's iffy unless it's like a top 5 talent in the league, to be honest. So, like you said, I would not want to be in Brad Stevens' shoes because either way, I think people are going to be unhappy. I feel like there's a lot of probably Celtics fans that are off of Jaylen Brown right now, and there's probably, a lot of fans that would be fine with him coming back. So it's a tough decision either way, and people are going to be unhappy. But so far, Brad's made a lot of good moves in just his few years being at the top of the organization. So I trust him as a fan to make the right choice. But like Gabe said, like, what move would be out there to get the roster better? I mean, there's obviously hypothetical trades, but a lot of the top talent is probably not even going to be available, and those teams might not be looking for somebody of Jaylen Brown's caliber back right away. They might just want future assets, young players, draft picks, and stuff. So it's tough. I would assume he would be back on the team like Brad was saying, but, these next few months, like you said, Devin, they're going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's also, like, it's not just a roster thing as well. There has been a really weird discourse around Joe Mazzulla, and I know a lot of people feel a lot of different ways. I'm just so tired of these coaches being fired so quick. I swear every single, like, top team's coach is gone. And it's like, dang, if finishing is like one of the top 4, top 8 teams in the league ain't enough, like, bro, I don't know who you're going to get, especially this late in the game. People are like, oh, they should move off him and go for somebody else. Most of the good candidates been hired, man, unless you're taking like a flyer. And it's just real tough to see because, after the year they had with Ime, I wish he could have just not done what he did, man, because if he could have just kept his nose clean, there's a real good chance they're back in the finals right now. However, with that said, it looked like Joe late in that series, like, made some solid adjustments. The first 3 games, like, he was really getting a lot of hell, but just some of the things they did later on made me think, okay, it maybe took a little bit longer than you want because you never want to go down 3-0, and it ended up not working out for that reason. But, like, far from the worst scenario, and him with a full second year that isn't kind of marred in that controversy and kind of, like, thrown together at the last second, wasn't even the official coach for half the season. I do think there's potential there. And so I think those narratives of, like, getting him out the door already just sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he, like you said, like, he took some time to make some adjustments really in the last 2 series. But rookie head coach, he was an assistant like a week before training camp started. Like, people really forgot about that. He was still the assistant coach. And then it's like people were saying, like, well, they could have found somebody better. Like, no, you can't find just a coach sitting on the streets a week before training camp starts, like the season starts. So you can't just find somebody that's a championship level coach. So you kind of have to keep it in house. And, like you said, Gabe, like half the season, this guy was still on the interim label. So he wasn't even the official head coach. So I feel like he did a fine job for his first season. And it's a learning curve as an NBA head coach. Like you gotta go through some stuff. It's very rare we see rookie head coaches win it all. And a lot of times when we do, these are guys that have been in the organization for years and years, like Nick Nurse was, like some other guys like Tyronn Lue's in the Cavs organization, and he had LeBron James. Like it's definitely rare occurrences where we see rookie head coaches win it all the first year. So, Joe definitely, made some errors, but he definitely, like you said, Gabe, made some really good adjustments towards the end of that series and gave Boston the chance to come back from 3-0.
Yeah, I definitely think any talk about replacing Joe, firing Joe, that seems very premature, and that seems very disrespectful to what he accomplished in his first year. Of course, there's some criticisms to be had, but like we just mentioned, as his first year as a head coach, it was very abrupt and crappy circumstances to come in as a first-time head coach. And obviously, there's a more recent comparison with Nick Nurse having success with a good team as a first-year head coach. That's just not going to happen very often. If we see that again at all in the next 2, 3, 4 decades, it just might not happen. That's not going to be a commonality. And Nurse was in a much better situation from a time standpoint, from a preparation standpoint, than Joe obviously was. The biggest adjustment now next season is going to be that it sounds like a lot of his assistants are going to be jumping ship to Houston. So how that adjustment happens in the backroom staff and in terms of how that then gets applied up to Joe and to the rest of the team, that's going to be the next adjustment from a coaching staff standpoint. So it's still not going to be an easy situation for Joe to come back in the next season because he's going to be adjusting again significantly. At least now this time around, he's got an entire offseason to at least prepare and know that he's going to be in the job as compared to last year. So I think he's more than deserving to be back in that spot next year. Was he amazing? No. But I definitely don't think he was terrible as a first-year head coach. I think he's more than deserved a chance to run it back with him again next season.
Yeah, the whole, coaching merry-go-round is just – I don't know. All these teams that have just fired somebody just to bring somebody else in, most of these hires, I guess there's potential, but it just feels like you got one guy that another franchise wasn't happy with for a reason, and you brought him in. And, in some situations, it's Monty Williams going to the Pistons, he took the Phoenix organization that was kind of like a dumpster fire at the bottom of the league every year and really built them up to the point where they can contend. Will he be the guy that gets Detroit a championship? I don't know if I could say all that, but can he really turn them around, make them a year in, year out, competitive team? I think that's a great hire. And so it is kind of one of those guys or those molds that just your franchise is at a certain place in their timeline. But then and maybe I'm projecting because fandom, but I don't know. The Sixers going from Doc Rivers to bringing in Nick Nurse is these are both guys who teams wanted to be good and then they just super underperformed. And it's Nick Nurse might be better than Doc Rivers to some extent, but I still think there's going to be some flaws there. And especially looking at it, it's we know what his flaw was. With Monty Williams, it was his lineups in the playoffs. It was what are these lineups doing? We would complain about it every single time we talked about the Suns on here. It's Nick Nurse, you got Joel Embiid, and if James Harden comes back, and aging James Harden, well, you going to play them 40 minutes? Because we know Nick Nurse likes to play his starters a million minutes. So it's every coach is going to have their pros and their cons, but I don't know, man. It's just this guy's out of here and now he's here, and this guy's out of here and now he's here. It's just the same guys going in a cycle, and it's man, if you're going to fire your coach and bring in somebody else, at least bring in somebody new.
Yeah, I love seeing fresh faces get coaching opportunities. Shout out to the Bucks for giving Adrian Griffin that job. I feel like that's an amazing hire. Seems like it was definitely people were saying this might be a Giannis hire. I think it is a Giannis hire. If you're bringing in a first-year coach, your franchise guy definitely has to be on board with that. But I definitely love seeing fresh faces. But I haven't had too many issues with most of the coaching changes. The only one that was kind of iffy was firing Monty, but it made sense when the report came out that the new owner wanted like his own guy in there. So I guess like that makes sense. So, but going to Frank Vogel's like, I think Frank Vogel's a fine head coach. Like, he's cool. Is he an upgrade over Monty? I don't really know about that. We'll just have to wait and see. And especially like how their roster construction in the offseason goes, because there was a lot more wrong with that team than just Monty Williams playing 9 or 10 guys in the postseason. You know, he kind of had to play 9 or 10 guys because you couldn't trust anybody past like the 6th guy in the rotation. So, but I actually like the Nick Nurse hire in Philly. I was actually a fan of that, Gabe. Maybe that is just the Toronto fandom coming out in the finals.
It might be. I don't know. Just having an older team like that, having a guy that's just like, oh yeah, you're gonna play like 8,000 minutes. I don't really know if that's like the best mix, but like,
was Nick always like that though? Like, was Kyle Lowry always playing like 40 minutes, even when y'all won the championship?
It wasn't as bad as it's been the last couple of years, but he was always up there. He was always up there. He's not as egregious as he has been the last couple of years, but he's always played his couple of guys heavy minutes.
They were like pretty solidly deep teams too, like the first like year or two. I mean, it was like probably at least 8-9 guys deep that you're confident giving like good playoff run. Especially that bubble team, because it wasn't Kawhi, it was just a bunch of guys who were all just like playing together and playing really well. So
yeah, I think the other thing with Nick Nurse too is not to say that every non-Raptors fan sees him in an overly positive light, but there's a lot of positive things that Nick Nurse gets credit for, with his being a defensive mastermind and trying a bunch of different things and wacky tactics and just being very willing to adjust and make changes. And that is true to a point, but there's also a lot of points in that don't get considered, like the fact that some of his defensive changes that he does end up sticking to are just bad. And his over-aggressive defensive style, if he doesn't have the perfect players for it, is really, really bad in terms of allowing open three-point shots, of allowing easy dribble penetration, and then more open three-point shots, especially when you don't have a team that has depth. And Philly have, again, better depth than Toronto, but I would argue they don't have great depth, and that could become a problem for them. And as much as he is a guy who adjusts a lot defensively and is a bit of defensive mastermind, that man has shown zero offensive creativity as a head coach, which always seems odd considering he was the offensive guy as an assistant before he became the head coach in Toronto. But nonetheless, his offensive creativity has not been very good, especially the last few years. And although personnel is part of it, it's Nick Nurse's coaching has definitely been a big part of why our offense in the half court has been really bad over the last couple of years. So I definitely feel like there's a few things that Nurse gets a lot of praise for that he then doesn't get equal criticism for some of his weaknesses. So I do like the hire, but I definitely think, like you say, Gabe, there's some reason to be skeptical. But regardless, Philly needed a change. And that's why, like you said, Tyrik, other than the Monty Williams firing, I should say, that's the only one that from a pure basketball perspective seemed a little bit odd. Everything else seemed like guys that either they kind of had it coming, or based on the current season that they had, it made sense. I think the Monty Williams fire was the only one that was a little bit odd, just purely from a basketball standpoint.
But at least he got a bag. Detroit went after him. They gave
that man's getting part of his son's money, and he's got a bag in Detroit. So I think he won, to say the least.
He's making like NFL wide receiver money.
For real.
Yeah,
man's getting a little exception for like the next 10 years as a head coach.
That's the hire of an offseason. Like, you give somebody that much of a bag as a coach and nobody's even talking about overpay. Like, that was a great hire. It's just, if he just replicates some of what he did in Phoenix, like, you got such a core there with Cade and them. Like, if he just does his thing, and it's just gonna work. Like, I'm fully confident it's gonna work. And the way I was talking about them last year, like, oh, they can make a play-in run, like, that was definitely going to happen next year.
No,
double it down.
No, it's not. They're not making the play-in next year. They're not making the play-in.
They might not make the play-in because they'll be above it.
No. In 2 years, yes. Next year, no.
Yeah, I'm going to have to wait and see how their draft goes, their off-season.
They don't even need to draft nobody crazy, man. All the players are there.
Look, I'm so glad.
Bad.
Yeah, it would have been ideal if they could have got the third pick. That would have been very ideal for them because Brandon Miller would have just fit in perfectly. But I think getting like another at least top 5 pick, like that's fine. Like they'll be okay. I just didn't want them to get the number 1 pick because even though Wemby's obviously generational type of talent, they already have a nice little big rotation, and I don't think they need that more than maybe the Spurs or another team would have.
Yeah, as it is, they already have too many bigs. So
Yes.
not that they couldn't have figured it out and couldn't have moved off some guys, but it definitely is a more seamless fit for Wemby in San Antonio or even in a couple other places than it would have been in Detroit.
Yeah, I've lightly touched into my draft research, so I'm excited to really like go full on deep dive mode on some of these prospects.
That's where I'm at. I just started this morning, so it's
If they would have got Wemby, you can kick James Wiseman right out the door, man. I'm not even upset.
Yeah, Wiseman and or Bagley would have been gone for sure.
I'm assuming they draft a wing though.
Yeah. Because Jalen Duren was really good. Isaiah Stewart had a really good year. And then they brought in Wiseman. Bagley barely played this season because of injury. So, yeah, too many bigs as it is, man. Please draft a wing.
Definitely in need of a wing. Let's move across to the Western Conference. Of course, moving back to the conference finals, Denver comfortably took care of the Lakers. And it wasn't really that close at many points. Denver looked like the better team in a series that Denver were obviously favored in, but a lot of people at least expected the Lakers to be competitive. I know my boy Clutch Talk was very much expecting the Lakers to do their thing, but that definitely did not happen. I'll get your thoughts first, Gabe. What did you see from the Lakers in that series? And do you think they played badly, or is that just what the Lakers are compared to a very good team in Denver?
I think the Lakers are a good team, man. Like, at the end of the day, they got outplayed in this series. But it's not like they got played off the court. The biggest score differential in any of these games was 11. And there were times where, like, Denver would mount, like, a pretty nice lead. But for the most part, like, it looked like the Lakers deserved to be in the conference finals. It wasn't any, like, Bucks versus Hawks where it was like, from the tip-off of game 1 that these teams just aren't on the same playing field. Even game 4 came right down to, like, the very last shot with LeBron. Like – I truly think, and as much as this goes against so many of my takes earlier in the year, the Nuggets really are just that nice. They completely proved me wrong for what I thought they were going into the postseason. I got fooled. I guess I wasn't familiar with their game, but just the way they play is just so perfect, man. They're like, we'll say 7.5-man rotation because sometimes Christian Brown is in and sometimes he's not, but especially that top 7, it's just an elite lineup. Like, when they're running Jamal Murray, like the way we talked about this, I think on Twitter a couple like days ago about how like when we do our off-season rankings, putting him somewhere is just so weird because he's one of those guys who I think you can now confidently say it's been enough time where it's like, okay, he's a playoff riser. The times we've seen him healthy in the playoffs, this man is really nice. Michael Porter Jr. feels like he just never misses a jump shot. Aaron Gordon on the defensive side of the ball is great. And, on the offensive side, that was one of the big stories of game 1 of the finals was like Aaron Gordon on the offensive side, he can really get it done if you don't put the proper stuff on him. You got guys like, KCP and Jeff Green around at the lineup. They're just from top to bottom, like really, really solid play. They have good coaching. They have a coach that's been in there for like 8 years, which is just proving like the testament to letting a guy really put a system in place. He's had just years upon years to work with Jokic, Murray. Porter's been there for a couple of years at this point. I severely underrated them. And I guess I'm going to call myself out. I guess I just got kind of brainwashed by seeing them not healthy for so long because it really was a lot longer than I think we thought it was. Like, they really didn't have a fully healthy playoff run since the bubble. And, I mean, at that point, now it's like mid-2023, and that was in 2020. So a very long time ago. But now seeing them at full strength, like, I can buy into the vision. And it definitely helps as well. This dude, Nikola Jokic, you just can't stop him. Like, there's not an answer. He really just does it all. And at this point, like, You can talk about defense all day if you want, but like it clearly is enough to get the job done. Like I can't say many bad things about that team. I think there's a very good reason why most people are looking at the finals after one game and saying, "Oh, the Heat really don't have much of a chance." The Nuggets are just that team, and I think it's their year. Jokic might not have got the MVP this season, but he might be bringing home a different MVP, and that's the FMVP trophy.
Yeah. Back to the Lakers. I I would say they overachieved. I feel like it was a very impressive run for them because this was a team that started off like 2-10. They made a bunch of trades around the deadline. At least brought a bunch of different pieces in. At least throughout the season as well, like with Hachimura coming in, and they really transformed themselves from being a team that was really locked in defensively. AD was able to play a good stretch of games. He played some really good playoff basketball. Even Braun, through like the foot injury and everything, was still playing very productive basketball. And guys were stepping up. Austin Reeves, I think, really impressed. At least he impressed me. Like, it showed me like, oh, this wasn't just one of those Laker hype players like how THT was. But, he can actually play basketball. He's actually really good. He's going to get paid a lot of money. And for them to make the conference finals, they made pretty, not quick work of the Warriors, but they really controlled that series, which was something that kind of impressed me. And even though they got swept, like Gabe said, a lot of these games were closer than a 4-0 sweep. Like, this was more of a competitive sweep. Even like in game one, the Lakers wouldn't go away. They kept fighting back, made it a game. And, they had, I think, double-digit leads in games 2, 3, and 4. They just weren't able to, contain the Nuggets because they're just that good of a team. And a lot of times quality just overwhelms in the playoffs. That's pretty much what happened in that series. But the Lakers should definitely be impressed with themselves. Obviously, the ultimate goal for them is to win the championship. Anytime the Lakers don't win the championship, it's a failure in their eyes. But they really transformed themselves from a team that looked like they might miss the playoffs for a second straight season to a team that was in the conference finals and looked like they belonged in the conference finals despite getting swept. But they definitely earned their way there by beating the Grizzlies and the Warriors. But like Gabe said, Denver is just that good. We were on this podcast about 2 months ago all saying that this is not a championship team. Like, this is not a true contender. And now they're 3 games away, and they look like they should be the overwhelming favorite to win it all. Like, a lot of people are saying Miami might not get a game, which is just kind of crazy to see.
That is definitely crazy. Between the parity we have in the league and the shift in style and gameplay in the modern NBA and just how good the duo of Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic is, we might be starting to shift into an era where you don't 100% need a top 10 elite level defense in the NBA to win the finals. And now credit to Denver. They've had a much better defense throughout the postseason than they have in previous years. It's not good, but it's about middle of the pack. And that's about all they've needed with how good their offense has been. The other thing I will credit to them is that their perimeter defense has been good enough that they haven't let Jokic be exposed too much in the pick and roll with guys attacking to the rim, because Jokic is a good post defender. It's when he has to get involved in the pick and roll, when he has to protect the rim, it becomes a bit more of a problem. They haven't let him be put in an absurd amount of uncomfortable situations throughout this postseason run where that has become an obvious exploitable point of this Nuggets defense. So shout out to Bruce Brown for his good defense. Shout out to Aaron Gordon for his great defense. Shout out to KCP for his great defense. Shout out to Michael Porter Jr. for being a much improved defender than he was a few years ago, although I still harp on him at times. He looks a lot more engaged now. He can recover better. He uses his length in more different ways that are impactful on the defensive end. So shout out to the Nuggets perimeter defense for that. As far as the Lakers go, like you alluded to, Tyrik, if you remove the logo and the name LA Lakers, if you just look at the roster, this is a successful season for them. We were talking about them a few months ago, previous to the trade deadline. There was no guarantee they were going to see the play-in tournament once again. And obviously their trade deadline was very good for them, although, of course, outside of Rui Hachimura, you could argue most of those players they acquired didn't actually help them that much the deeper they got into the postseason, but they certainly helped them get to where they got. And they were still competitive against Denver. They fought well. They were in that series. Denver were just better, like you guys alluded to. And that seems to be the case now against Miami as well. And that team is just got great chemistry. They've got great talent. The Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic duo is crazy. And like you alluded to, Gabe, Jamal Murray is such an anomaly for ranking because he has been so good this postseason. And he was good in the regular season too, but it's such a different level. And of course, when you incorporate the missed time he's had over the last couple of years, I mean, when we were in the call last night, we had Troll Bucket saying that Jamal Murray's top 25 in the league right now. And it's like, okay, I don't know if I'd agree, but there's an argument to be made. But you could also probably make an argument that he's not top 40. And that's the disparity we have with Jamal Murray right now. So it'll be really interesting to see how he plays moving into next season. But there's no doubt he is one of the best playoff risers in the league right now. And him and Nikola Jokic, at the very least, are one of the best couple of duos in the league right now.
Yeah, they're just greatness, man. Like, if Jamal Murray somehow never makes an All-Star team, like, he might go down as the greatest player ever to never be an All-Star. Because there's still a lot of really good guards in that Western Conference. And, this is like a season where, like, a Kyrie Irving got there, like, halfway through the season even. So, like, I don't think it's going to get any weaker in that depth department. But when it matters most, like, this man is a difficult shot maker. Denver, they run good sets, very pass heavy. Like, when your team run by a guy like Nikola Jokic, you're just going to be making a ton of passes. The ball's going to be swinging around. Like, well-run team. At the same time, when somebody plays great defense on them for 23 seconds, and it comes time to take that random, like, contested three-point shot, top of the key on the wing, whoever it may be, last-second pass, I swear there's like a 60% chance that guy's making that shot. Like, the mix of, you're a good offense, but you also have that difficult shot making that doesn't go away in the postseason. There's a lot of teams that have like one or the other. There'll be teams who it's like, they'll run some good sets, but they don't have like that superstar that can take over the game. And there's some teams that they rely on like heavy isolation, good just contested shot making, and then the second that guy's not hot, they fizzle out and they fall out of the postseason. This Denver team really has it both on offense, and so they can just have their cake and eat it too. Like, really, no matter how you slice it, they're just an offensive powerhouse, a juggernaut. Like, and it's very, very sustainable because it doesn't have to rely on one thing. It's very multidimensional. It's not like Jamal Murray only eats off a great feed from Jokic. Nah, he can go out there, ISO it, just play point guard like a normal point guard would, and just really ball out. So for them, they're just – I'm a fraud. That's all I can really say is I'm a fraud for the way I was talking about him earlier in the season. Like, Garrett just owns me even more than before, coming on here saying, yeah, if the Nuggets beat the Suns and go on to win it all, I want the first pick. And now I'm like, shit, well – I guess he might be back on the channel soon enough for that. Like, anyways, just to make a point on the Lakers, just because I know we probably want to get into like some what's next for them. Looking at it, the fact that they accomplished this in like less than half a season together, since I say the trade deadline is probably like even closer to like 2/3 of the way through the season, like it's pretty deep into it. It's just so impressive. Like, they won way more than they lost. Completely controlled 2 playoff series against one young up-and-coming team and one dynasty. Like, they look really good, and what they can do in a full season together could be really impressive, especially given the fact that, you don't want to make too many drastic moves because you still got this core, LeBron and AD, and what's around them is working, and these players are kind of old, so you don't have a lot of room to experiment, especially with LeBron. As long as he's there, if you got something that's working, you just want to keep pushing with that. Now, could I see them maybe just taking one more step in the point guard merry-go-round? Yeah, because I know a lot of people were not very happy with what D'Lo did in this postseason. Obviously, going from like Westbrook to D'Lo to somebody else, like it just seems like different point guards in and out over and over. But if something becomes available, if like there's some point guard on the table that think it's just a steady guy that can like spread the rock around, maybe be a good off the like catch shooter, maybe you go get him. But for the most part, like, do I expect this roster to look that much different in September? Not really. You could just see some guys leave because they get a massive bag in the offseason.
You know what I actually –
You go ahead, Tyrik.
I actually want to see – this is a quick point, and maybe it's too late in his career to do this, but I would like to see Braun go back to the point like how he was in 2020. I feel like that was the best version of this Lakers team. Obviously, they won the championship, but offensively, they looked a lot more fluid. Let Reeves thrive as the off-ball guard. Try and bring in another shooter, whether it's on your roster already or just bring in somebody else on the wing. A nice 3-and-D player, and just get back to that brand. I feel like that's when their offense was really thriving. I feel like Braun at the one, he's able to dictate the game. Like Gabe's saying, just get a smart decision maker. Braun is the smartest decision maker that you can ask for, and he's already on your team. I would like to see them do that. I don't know if they will. It might be too late in his career to ask him to put on that type of burden, but I think they should at least explore it if they want to maybe get off of D'Angelo Russell and just go with a different direction at the point guard spot. I feel like Braun is the guy to do it.
Yeah, for on-court reasons, with how LeBron has played in that role, it's probably not a bad idea. And depending on how their offseason goes, they might be forced into that, because if they don't re-sign D'Angelo Russell, I actually have no idea where they go at the point guard position, because A, they don't have the money, and B, point guard options in free agency this year are pretty trash. So they're going to be in a tough spot. Of course, the one potential trade that has been discussed is a sign and trade for Fred VanVleet. I pray to God our front office is not stupid enough to do that, because if D'Angelo Russell is a Raptor, might be joining Gabe on a half fandom type trip for a little bit. But man, after that, you're looking at Russ, who's obviously not coming back, Dennis Schroeder, who they have to deal with re-signing as a potential bench guy already, Gabe Vincent, Javon Carter, the next unrestricted free agents like Reggie Jackson, Dennis Smith Jr. Like, there's really not much at the point guard position this summer, unless you start throwing a mid-level exception at restricted free agents like Trey Jones. And again, do you want him starting? Probably not. So their two options are probably start LeBron at point or re-sign D'Angelo Russell to a amount that they're probably not going to be very content with. So they're going to have an interesting decision at point guard this summer. And then, like you alluded to, Gabe, they're probably going to try to retain most of their key guys, but a few of them might get a bag, because specifically with Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves, those guys are going to command a lot more money than they would have a few months ago after a good end to the season and a good postseason. So I'd imagine the Lakers will do what they can to retain them, but if someone throws a max at Reeves, which I think is about a 4-year, $100 million deal, they might not commit to that, because I think that ends up being like 35 to 40 mil a year on the last 2 years of that deal. Same thing with Rui, depending on what he ends up getting offered. So they're probably going to try to retain those guys, but depending on what type of offers get sent their way, they could have an interesting situation where if they lose Rui and or Reeves, they're pretty much right back in the same spot where they've been the last couple of years, where they just don't have enough depth around LeBron and AD to have any bit of a competent roster. So that's priority number 1 and 2 for them, is make sure those two guys return. The point guard position, who knows? We might see another year of LeBron at point, because they just might be forced into it.
Yeah, I feel like free agency as a whole is just really mid this season. So the fact that the Lakers outgoing guys are some of like the biggest ones does kind of give off the vibe that, yeah, they might be gone. And that'll just be tough to see as a whole, because just as a viewer, it was really fun to watch like this LeBron team that just had like a lot of just depth pieces, just a lot of good role players, just depth, not like the classic, oh, the Lakers are going to go out and name chase, and now they got a couple star players, but no court spacing around them, and it just looks like terrible basketball. As soon as the bench comes on the court, you just don't even want to watch the game. It's so ugly. This was an entertaining team to watch, and so just as a viewer of the sport, I would want them to stay together, especially as one of the better teams this season. I mean, like in that last half, I mean. So, me personally, as a fan, I'm hoping they retain these guys. As a realist, they're probably gone, because when the Lakers have 2 max players on the roster, it's just kind of the nature of it.
Who's more expendable though? Would you? I mean, I would probably rather keep Reeves than Rui, but what do you guys think? Like, if you could,
I think you got to keep Reeves. I think he does too much for them from a secondary shot creation standpoint. Obviously, Rui's important, but I think he's a lot more replaceable to some extent than Reeves would be.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. I think that just Reeves and some of those They both really had huge stretches and huge games and moments in the playoffs, but yeah, if it's like which one do I really envision continuing at a high pace, especially throughout an 82 game regular season, is Reeves.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure we're on the same page here. Yeah, they got some decisions to make, and a lot of money is going to be thrown at those guys. Um, it's going to be interesting, man. And yeah, the fact that free agency is so big just makes it tough. Like, if they do lose those guys, then it's like, yeah, we might have some free cap, but what are we going to do with that? Because there's not really a lot of names that are really going to shift you that much, at least on paper. So, tough decisions for that like the front office, even after making a lot of big moves during the course of the regular season.
Hey, they can bring back Tristan Thompson for next year. He put in quality minutes on Jokic.
That was probably the most shocking thing this entire playoff run. Like, Tristan was actually playing really good minutes in that last game.
It was crazy. He was on TV like previewing the finals, just looking at footage from himself a week ago guarding Jokic. It's like, dog, what a flex. What a flex.
Yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, no, he did actually give him some solid minutes, so I'll give them that. But yeah, like about the only flexibility the Lakers have is they could opt in on Malik Beasley and pick up his team option, and they can package that with Mo Bamba, and they got about 26 mil they can match some salaries with. But other than that, they are living off of vet minimums again for another offseason. So it's just like a few years ago when they won a title, and the year after that for a couple of guys. Obviously not as much success this season, but same situation where you got a couple of guys you got to re-sign, and if you don't, your depth is probably trash, and you're probably not that good again, and they're in the same spot again this time around. Of course, it's not going to be completely dependent on whether they are willing to offer the money. Guys just might be willing to give them a ton more, but they at least got to look like they want to re-sign Rui and Reeves this time around compared to some of the contrasting thoughts on that a few years ago where they were so willing to let Caruso go and they were happy to just ship off Kuzma and ship off KCP to bring in Russell Westbrook. If they do that type of mentality again this summer, probably going to be right back where they were the last couple of years. So hopefully Pelinka has learned, although I'm not betting on that, but hopefully he has learned and they're willing to spread out some money to those guys because they earned it after the last few months they've had.
I mean, the Caruso thing was like, they kind of were in that point where it's like, oh, are we going to keep Caruso or are we going to keep THT? And they just made the overwhelmingly wrong decision. But this time, if it's like, oh, we got to keep Brewer, we got to keep Austin Reeves. If somebody offers Austin Reeves like 17 mil a year and somebody offers Rui like 10 mil a year and you say, oh, I guess we're going to have to keep Rui. Like, that's really not that big of an L based on like the money, just the money difference there. It would still be like tough. The real bad decision was though, like making that name chasing trade. If they do something like that this offseason, that's just what a way to just ruin everything that you just built here. Like really salvaging it from the depths and getting yourself back into a point where you can contend toward the highest level at least. To just go and throw that away right away would be such a travesty.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we can trust Pelinka now, but no, we can't. Like, no, there's no chance we can trust him until we see on paper like he has a successful offseason. Because he hasn't really had a good offseason since they built that championship team. Like, it's really been a lot of poor moves after poor moves in the offseason. So, he has to still prove himself and still prove his worth, this offseason. But I think the only way like Reeves doesn't get re-signed or at least retained in LA, like Devin said, is if somebody offers him the max. And that will just make the Lakers think, like, is it worth it? Down the line, is this a good decision or not? Other than that, I don't see, like, if a team offers them Reeves $17 million a year and the Lakers don't match that, then that is a foolish decision. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the only way he's not back to. I'd imagine they re-sign him out of any other circumstance. And there's probably an argument that they should fork out the money even if he does end up getting offered the max by someone else, but let's just hope that they at least send out some good offers to these guys this summer. Even a guy like Lonnie Walker is probably someone they should be looking to retain for how valuable he was at times. And on the off chance you do end up losing someone like Reeves, or even you don't bring back Dennis Schroeder, just to have a bit of extra guard play. So interesting offseason for them. And hopefully, like you guys have alluded to, they're willing to buy in for at least another year or two and give it a little bit more of a shot with this group, because even though they did end up getting swept in the conference finals, this is as competitive a team as we've seen from them in a couple of years. That's for sure.
Most definitely, man. Yeah, a perfect offseason for them, I think would be like bringing Reeves back and just getting some more big man depth. And if you can get another guard in there, like maybe, but I think Braun at the one. Me personally, like I would love to do that. I think that can really unlock the best version of this team offensively.
Yeah, I think Braun's going to have to be the guy at the one unless for some reason D'Angelo Russell has zero market and they get him for cheap. Or the only other option is if they can get Gabe Vincent on a mid-level exception maybe, but I'd find it hard to imagine he would leave Miami to go to the Lakers at this point. So I'd imagine that's probably not an option.
Feels like a Miami guy, man. I just feel like those Miami guys, all those Miami undrafted guys, really, I'm thinking like if they go to another team, I don't know if they're going to be as productive as they are in Miami. It's just something about the way the Heat just run that organization that I'm like, I feel like they maximize everybody. So if Gabe Vincent went to the Lakers, I really do not know if he's going to be the Gabe Vincent we're seeing in this playoff run.
Kendrick Nunn was one of those undrafted guys, and it took him like over a year to get on the floor with the Lakers. And when he got on the floor, he was not good. So, Gabe, you might be something, man.
I think we all knew that Kendrick Nunn was a bit of a fraud, though. I think that was well known by the time he was kind of done in Miami.
Laker fans thought he was the savior.
No, they needed him to be the savior. There's a difference.
I don't know, man. Miami's weird. Duncan Robinson played great, got 90 mil, played like trash, and then came around this postseason, and I was like, 90 mil is still a bad contract for him, but it doesn't look nearly as bad as it did like 6 months ago.
It's also what the market was for like 3-point shooters back then. Like Joe Harris got a big bag. I know a different player.
Got a bag.
Norman Powell got a bag. Like different type of players, but that's just kind of what the market was for like fringe starting shooting guards at that time.
That's like I don't know.
A lot of bad ones from back then.
Now that was like for some of the stuff that he was offering, like when they were blowing that 3-0 lead, like when they just lost those 3 in a row, like some of those games they lost, Duncan was still like one of the only players on the court having like solid shooting nights for them. And seeing the stuff that he's done this this postseason, like he's been more than just like catch and shoot. Like some of the backdoor cuts he's had, I saw him like just blowing by people. As soon as I saw him getting blow-bys, I would just know the game is over. I'm like, all right, that's like all I got to see. We're done here.
He was doing that little stutter jab and getting by people.
Yeah,
we drive on Jason Tatum and get to the rack.
Yeah, his offensive versatility has improved a lot since then. Obviously, he's still primarily a three-point shooter, but like you guys say, handles better, can cut at times. Two-man game with Bam is nice, can get involved with feeding him in the paint at times. Like he's a lot more versatile than he was a few years ago, where it was, I'm just sitting on the wing, I'm just sitting in the corner, I have decent off-ball movement, but that's about it. And now he's got a little bit more to his game, to the point now where if he's not hitting his threes at an elite rate, he still offers something to you at least. So obviously a big part of why he's back into rotation is he is hitting those threes at an elite rate again, but he's definitely improved a lot as a player, especially even still on the offensive end over the last few years compared to how he was when he got that bag.
Yeah, and I said it before, like I think during the Bucks series, but just like the fact he stayed ready is just so impressive, because a lot of guys, when you pretty much get taken out of rotation completely for like 2 straight seasons, your confidence will never come back to this level to where you can produce to a team that is in the NBA Finals. So shout out to him for just staying ready and producing like, not on the same level like when they made the bubble run, but he's still providing them very, very solid minutes off that bench, which they needed desperately with Tyler Hero being down.
It's going to sound corny, but that's just Heat culture, man. 1 through 15. Playing at practice with Jimmy, Pat Riley on the sideline, coach, but like, dog, they gonna get you ready That's how all them undrafted guys come in as guy number 15 and end up being guy number 6, guy number 5. Like, it's just a system that just keeps everybody ready to go.
Even
And that's why Tyler Hero goes out the first game of the postseason and the 8th seed goes to the finals. Like, they just stay ready.
Even like Haywood Highsmith didn't play like real playoff minutes until like Game 5 against the Boston Celtics, and he gave them really good minutes in the 2 games that he played real minutes in that series. So, like you said, heat culture might be a real thing. I think I made a tweet like during the regular season saying like Pat Riley does not always find a way, because that's what somebody said, and I think I'm eating my words on that because they found a way back to the finals.
He slept through the trade deadline. We all clowned him, and he got the last laugh on us, man. We really said, like, I think we actually talked about that on the pod when they like got Kevin Love, and I'm like, was Kevin Love their solution to doing absolutely nothing at the trade deadline? Did they get Zeller around then too? I think they might.
Yeah, they signed him a little bit after.
Yeah. So we were talking about that. We're like, I don't know if this is enough to like put them over the top. I guess it's cool, but like y'all could have done nothing at the trade deadline, and now it's like, hey, this is why Pat Riley has been in the front office winning rings for like 2 decades, and we're doing what we're doing right now. He knows. He just knows somehow.
The Godfather, man, he knows. I love seeing.
If I'm remembering correctly, I might have given those guys an F at the trade deadline. So
I think you did.
So I was feeling harsh with my Fs that day. So
yeah, you were a harsh grader for the trade deadline grade. I think I gave him like a D-, so I wasn't too far off.
Devin was in a terrible mood that day.
Apparently, I think I gave out 3 Fs. It was a rough day for NBA teams.
I think you gave the Hornets a good grade though, just because they traded Mason Plumlee.
This is true. Although it wasn't that good because I didn't like them getting rid of McDaniels. So
yeah, sure.
They were passing, but
in their defense, though, he didn't even play much in the postseason. So maybe they knew something.
That's true.
The hate watching is gonna get really just wonderful. Seeing like, I think it was like a week or 2 ago, just seeing all Devin's tweets that are like, if Charlotte doesn't draft Scoot, I'm gonna become a massive hater. If the Magic move off of Wendell Carter, I'm gonna become a massive hater. Like, she was getting me weak.
This is the time for terrible trade packages being thrown on Twitter every single day, and it's annoying.
It's really annoying. I have definitely spent less time on Twitter the last couple of weeks than I normally do, and that is probably the primary reason. It is just that time.
I barely tweeted since May started, for real. I was on Twitter like every day, just like live tweeting games and stuff. Now, like,
yeah, I feel that. I don't be watching most of the games live either. So like even like game 1 of the finals, I went to bed that night at like 7:30, and I woke up at midnight, and I was like, okay, let me watch the game now. Took my 35 minutes, watched the game. I was like, okay, let's just go back to sleep. But that's how I've been doing for most of it. Because yeah, I can't be bothered. Just watch it later in 40 minutes, and all is good.
It's actually smart.
Yeah, it's different in the regular season when there's a bunch of games on at the same time, and I'll just throw a bunch on League Pass. But especially at this point in the postseason, there's just one game. It's like, yeah, I'm just gonna live my life, and when I got a half an hour, I'll throw the game on.
That's fair. Yeah, you didn't miss much game 1. Jeff Green shredding the Miami zone.
Yeah, Aaron Gordon bullied the guys in the paint for the first quarter.
Yep.
I felt like MPJ shot the ball well, even though he didn't.
Yeah, I did not realize he was 2 for 11.
Yeah, me neither.
When I saw that, I'm like, oh, he was just chucking, which is typical MPJ, but I didn't think he was that bad. I thought maybe like 4 for 11.
Yeah, I did not think it was that bad either. Biggest thing that was a problem for me in that game is Jimmy just didn't look like he wanted to get to the paint at all, which is the thing they need to do if they want to beat Denver. And it just didn't look like that was part of his game plan or Miami's game plan whatsoever.
Yeah, it looked like he took game 1. Looked like he took game 1 as like a feel-out game, but I don't think you can afford feel-out games against a team that is this much better and clearly has the best player on the floor and probably 2 of the top 3 players on the floor. Like, you just can't afford that.
I mean, isn't this the first time the Heat have lost game 1 this whole postseason? Because they beat the Knicks in game 1. I know they beat the Bucks and Boston in game 1.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, like this wasn't a team this offseason that was for real taking like feel out games like that. Like they would come out and attack and try to step on your throat early because trying to steal home court, you're the underdog. Like you got to take every opportunity you can, but really most of the team did not look great. Like after the phenomenal just game 7 against Boston, Caleb Martin came out flat. Max Strus came out terrible. Jimmy didn't have a good game. Duncan didn't really do much. Like those shooters, plus Jimmy, just was not the same players that they were in most of the Boston series because some of those games in the middle were kind of rough. But
yeah,
you can't afford that against Denver. I've been talking up Denver this whole episode for a reason. If you don't keep your foot on the gas the whole time, if you have nights like this, you're not going to win.
Yeah, definitely not. I want to give credit to Bam, though, because as much as Miami didn't play that good, that's probably one of the best aggressive offensive games we've ever seen from Bam. And it's unfortunate that they didn't capitalize on that because I don't know if Bam's going to have that good of an offensive game again this postseason. But credit to him because he had a really good aggressive offensive game. We've been harping on him for that for years now. And he did that in a very evident and assertive way. Game 1, they're going to need more of that, but credit to him because he had a great game offensively game 1.
Yeah, and he wasn't even like that good offensively in the Celtics series. So like to see him come out like that, put up 25 shots, I think, and it's like you still lose that game. It's just because like they were really cold from 3, but then on the flip side, I think Denver shot below 30% from 3. So it's like, yeah, we didn't shoot good, but they didn't shoot good either, and they were pretty much up 15 plus points the majority of this game, despite like. It took like Kyle Lowry like starting to hit shots in like the fourth quarter to really close the gap a little bit to make it a respectable ending deficit. But yeah, Miami definitely has like a big hill to climb, and it's just like matchup wise, like you mentioned, Devin, like they try to put a small on Aaron Gordon. People forget Aaron Gordon has pretty much been a 15, 16 point per game scorer for like the last 4 or 5 years. Can't put a small guy on. He's gonna take advantage. 6'8", can jump out the gym. 240, 250. Like he's a big guy. You can't just put small guys on him. Like, and that's an easy like 10 points off the rip for him. So Miami just has. They definitely have their work cut out for them. Spo has his work cut out for him. I'm interested to see the adjustments tonight, and if it's not the proper adjustments, I'm afraid this is going to be a quick NBA Finals because, man, unless Jimmy's going to have to get back to how he was playing like in that Bucks series. To where he was just really like Superman, and those guys have to start hitting shots. I think Strus was like 0 for 9. He's probably not going to go 0 for 9 again in this series, but he can't have a bad series shooting the ball, so he has to be better. Those guys in the conference finals and really throughout this entire playoff run, those guys have been hitting a lot of open jump shots. They've been making teams pay for leaving them open. They got to make the Denver Nuggets pay because they were leaving those guys open. Strus was getting open shots, Martin was getting open shots, Duncan was getting open shots, and they just weren't capitalizing. So they got to be better, but, adjustments definitely have to be made on Spo's side, which he's one of the best in the world, if not the best. So I trust him to make those adjustments, but will it be enough? We'll just have to wait and see.
I think the biggest thing they got to do adjustment-wise, at least from a superficial standpoint, is Haywood Highsmith's going to have to play a big role in this series. As we saw Aaron Gordon dominate in the paint down low early, like you mentioned. He's the only real wing they have with size other than Jimmy who they can give some minutes to in this series. Kevin Love's not going to be the option because Gordon's just going to cook him from the perimeter at that point. So Highsmith had a great game 1 and played a bit over 20 minutes. I think that's going to have to continue for the rest of this series because they need his length and they need his size on the court. And bonus if he keeps shooting as well as he has been because he's been one of their better complementary guys. From a shooting standpoint over the last little bit was certainly one of their best guys in game 1, but especially on the defensive end, they're going to need him to play a really big role this series.
Yeah, tonight's going to end up being very telling. I think, the classic thing is always, like the series doesn't start until the road team wins. And so technically if Denver wins tonight, it's not over, but like game 1 was 11 points, but like a lot of that was just late fourth quarter. He like just scored some more points because they got their guys in. It was, for all intents and purposes, not really that close of a game. One of those, the score makes it look closer than it really was. Game 2, even if Miami loses tonight, but it's like a close game, the role players look back in action. Jimmy has a solid game, and they just lose by like 5 because Jamal Murray just has some super tough shot making down the stretch. All right, at least you shown we can be competitive. We definitely have some sets and some good things we can do against the opposition. We can take it back home to Miami, and we still got a shot because we haven't dropped a home game yet. It's not 3-0, it's just 2-0, and they were the home team. That's fine. If they come out again tonight and they just completely get played off the court again, yeah, it's probably over. And I think right now, like, that's really the thing that most people are predicting. And if there's one thing that he have done this whole offseason, it's really prove a lot of predictions wrong. People were probably Bucks in 5. I don't know how many people actually picked the Knicks against them. I definitely did not. And then most people picked the Celtics against them as well. So at least 2 out of the 3 series they've been in, they were heavily favored against. And they ended up to prove us wrong. However, the thing is, those series, they took control early. This time trying to fight back, they're really going to have to be on their shit tonight, or else things could get out of hand quick. If it's not at the very least a close loss that you can come away with some sort of like moral victory, it's not going to be a good time to be in Miami.
I don't think they can afford a moral victory at this point, man. I think they need to steal this game. Like, I see a world where they go down 2-0 and they win the series. And that might come back to bite me, but I don't see it happening, bro. Like, I feel like it's pretty much a must-win game in my eyes. I feel like they really need this win to kind of give themselves that kind of confidence that they can go back home and handle business there. Because if not, I mean, Denver's the type of team we've seen in this postseason. Once they smell blood in the water, like, they really take advantage. Like with the Lakers, even in the games where the Lakers were up double figures, like, they just continued to walk them down, and ended up winning those games. So, I feel like tonight might be a must-win for Miami, but we'll see, man. If any team can do it, like you said, Gabe, Miami definitely can, because they've beaten the odds so many times in this postseason. But this is going to be their toughest obstacle, with the Denver Nuggets being the way they are. And one of the big things for me, like you mentioned way earlier, Gabe, like Jokic is pretty much unstoppable. Like, he's going to impact the game one way or another, even if he's not shooting the ball well. He's going to have a big impact on the game. One thing they can't handle, though, like, you can't let Jamal Murray look like a top 2 player on the floor or even the best player on the floor. If that's the case, you're definitely cooking that in this series. Like, you have to be able to contain Jamal Murray. And in the only games that we've seen them lose this postseason, or at least 2 of the 3 games, Jamal Murray struggled in 2 of those games. So he's really like the key to shutting them down offensively, because Jokic is going to do what he does. But if you can stop Jamal Murray, you give yourself a much better chance. But he was getting back cuts, getting standing dunks off of 2, getting open mid-range jump shots. Like, you have to be able to slow him down more than they did in game 1.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with, like, they have the good sets, but then it's also just that mix of tough shot making. It really feels like that tough shot making is what carries them down the stretches of games. Once you get into that fourth quarter, that last 5 or 6 minutes, like, it just feels like he gets the ball, he goes to work, and it's just a bucket every single time. I feel like I've seen him miss like 1 shot ever this postseason in those situations. And so I don't know how much you have to throw at him. I don't know what Coach Spo has to draw up. But anything you can do to mitigate his impact, that's probably the key, because, I don't want to just say, oh, like, you can't just say get rid of Jokic and let everybody else beat you, because with a team like this, everybody else can beat you. Like, not by themselves, but as a collective, they're each going to give you enough to where if you just put all your attention on Jokic or you put all your attention on Murray, this team, the depth is just so good that, like, any of them can drop double digits. Like, at least like 5 of them can probably drop double digits. And so it's just really going to be difficult to come up with the right defense for them. If they can find out a way to do it, more power to them. And if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Coach Spo. But it seems like a very tall task.
Yeah, it's tough because, simply put, Miami just don't have the personnel. I mean, Butler got switched onto Aaron Gordon early, and simply put, it's just because he has to be there for the size. But then you still have MPJ in the wing, who obviously is not going to post up as much as Aaron Gordon is, but his size and his length is still a problem, so you're not really going to have much success throwing a Gabe Vincent or even a Max Strus on him. unless they're really in his grill. But that's a tough ask for those types of guys because in an ideal world, Jimmy probably lives on Jamal Murray in this series. But they just don't have the personnel to do it because in which case Aaron Gordon has a really good matchup and can take advantage of it, or MPJ has a really good matchup and can take advantage of it. They need Highsmith and another wing if they want to be able to do that with Jimmy. Unfortunately, they just don't have that. So Jimmy and Highsmith are basically locked onto those two guys on the wing. And their zone defense that has been effective throughout the postseason just isn't going to be that effective against Denver. Their ball movement is too good. Jokic, especially as a passer, is way too good. That's just going to get exploited way too easily. They have too many good shooters. So that's such a big layer and an important layer of their defense this postseason that just isn't going to be effective against Denver, at least nowhere near as effective as it has been. So they're in a tough spot where most of their adjustments that they've been able to rely on and what they've been able to do with their personnel is really hampered by what Denver have to offer. And ultimately put it's just a tough matchup for them. And regardless of the talent that's on the floor, obviously Denver have it there. The matchup favors Denver too, and that was shown in game one, and I don't think that's going to change, and it's going to put them in a really tough spot.
Yeah, it would help if they had if Oladipo didn't get hurt, just like another body that they could throw out there that's at least good defensively. So, like you said, they're just lacking, that piece, just not having the guys that can play. Like they just don't have the wing depth, which we said was an issue all year, and it's finally might catch up to them, but we'll see, man. We'll see. If they can shoot better in game two, that definitely gives themselves a chance because they were pretty pitiful from downtown in game one. But I think the main thing, and you pretty much started with this, Dev, Jimmy has to be more aggressive. It starts with Jimmy. This team is really only as good as Jimmy Butler is. And it was nice that they could get Caleb Warren having his type of series in the conference finals. But you would like for Jimmy Butler to be easily dictating everything that happens offensively, or at least 85% of the things that happen offensively for this team. So he has to be better. He has to be more assertive offensively. And I'm sure the defensive adjustments will come, but it starts with Jimmy Butler, I think, being more aggressive on the offensive end for this team.
Yeah, I think the other piece of hope for the Miami Heat as well is, you guys mentioned earlier, they were getting some solid open looks from Strus, from Duncan. They just weren't making those shots. And so sometimes you have off shooting nights and sometimes you have good shooting nights. As long as you're getting the good looks, I do feel like that's a little bit more important because at the end of the day, these guys are known as good shooters for a reason. Just by the law of averages and just progressing to the mean is going to be way better than what they were in that game one. So as long as they continue to run those same sets that got them open looks last time and they can just make those, then the game doesn't get out of hand so early that it's just impossible to come back. At that point, you have a fighting chance. And as long as you can remain within striking distance, Jimmy Butler, all he has to do is get active in the last 8 minutes of the game. And that's a recipe for a possible win. That's how Miami's won a lot of games this postseason. That's how they did it last year. That's how they did it in the bubble. Just stay in striking distance and then get your closers ready to activate toward the end.
That's a good point, man. We'll see, bro. Who y'all got tonight? I think that's the ideal question that wrap up the finals talk.
I got Denver. I don't think Miami can steal a game on the road in this series. I'd love to see them do it for competitiveness and as a basketball fan, but I think Denver wrap these games at home, and Miami probably get a game at home, but I think that's about it.
Give me the 305, man. I don't think they're gonna win, but Tyrik, I know you're about to say that Denver's winning. So I'm gonna be different, just so if I am, I can come back next week and talk my shit on the pod. I was right that one time. Because listen,
you just say you don't think they're gonna win.
But all that matters is the pick. All that matters is the pick. Because listen, bro, we've been on here for an hour and 14 minutes, and I still have not mentioned the fact that when we were doing our predictions for the playoffs, you said, Gabe, you got the Lakers going to the conference finals? Nah, that's kind of wild, bro. All I'm going to say is,
I did think
talking to me now? How you talking to me now?
It's been a wild postseason. The Miami Heat as an ace here in the NBA Finals. Crazier things have happened.
It has been a wild postseason, but listen, the guy who saw the vision first Laker Nation, stand up! Come on, man. I saw it from the beginning.
Rose unlocking a new fandom.
On the
Hey,
contrary,
man.
let's remind everyone that his other Western Conference pick was for the current team that's up 1-0 in the finals to get swept by Phoenix. So
Yes.
he was very right on half of it, but he was very, very wrong on the other half.
Whoa. Foul play. Hey, man. We can't
I'm
be
glad you
right
brought that
about
up, 'cause I
we
forgot
can't
about
be
that.
right about everything, but I'm collecting my Infinity Stones right now, man. I got Laker Nation, I got Clipper Nation, I got We the North. Come on, like, bro. I got Warriors fans too, because I'm a Kurt Pepper stan. I got the Miami Heat. I got the Miami Heat with my Jimmy fandom. I'm missing that one more, that sixth Infinity Stone, man. So we'll see who's next.
Dude's barely a Raptors fan.
This man just named 1/6 of the league. It's like, yeah, okay.
Hey, man. It's called grow. We're growing an audience here, man. No matter what team you like, we got something for you here on 3P Dub.
No matter what team you like, Gabe is a fan.
Hey, man. Because we enjoy basketball.
But yes, I do have Denver tonight. You were correct about that. Have the Raptors haven't hired their coach yet? Like, who's even the candidates? I haven't seen much.
I don't even remember, to be honest. I honestly have not followed it that closely.
I feel like they're about to just hire somebody else from within the organization because
it's not a within. I think we're looking at who's the name of the guy he either used to or coaches the Spanish national team who was in the Raptors organization for a bit. I forget his name, but I know he's a candidate.
Is that guy still coaching the G League thing?
I don't know if he's still down there, but his name hasn't been brought up, surprisingly, because I thought he was going to be one of the guys who was going to be brought up initially when we canned.
According to Clutch Points, it's Sergio Scariolo.
Yes, yeah, that's the name.
And King's associate head coach, like King's assistant.
Yes,
Jody Fernandez.
Yeah,
hey, we need to do anything to make that offense better.
Did you say Rudy Fernandez?
Jody.
Oh, I thought you said Rudy. I was going to say Rudy's coaching.
Yeah, I think those are the two front runners. Although I think Steve Nash is still in the picture, which I'm not that keen on. I think there's another guy too who's a final candidate, but I don't remember who that is. I think Chris Quinn was in the conversation, but I don't think he was one of the final candidates.
Interesting. I would like to see a fresh face.
Me too. I'm glad that's the direction they're going by the looks of it.
I'm tired of the merry-go-round, man. Like I said that earlier.
Why is Doc still getting interviews, bro? Like that is
retire, bro. Please retire. If the Raptors hired Doc Rivers and the Sixers and the Raptors just switched coaches, I'm finished, bro. Like
that would be an acceptable way to leave a fan base. Like
he's not a final candidate. We're good. He's not a final candidate. Thank God.
Thank you. God, that'd be terrible.
Okay, it is those three: Jody Fernandez, Scariolo, and Steve Nash.
It's just like when you're trying to like steal an assistant or something like that from another team, like somebody off somebody else's coaching tree. It's like right now, every good team's coach just got fired. So whose coaching tree do you even go off of? Like you got like Steve Kerr's coaching tree runs pretty deep. Technically, that's like a sub tree of Greg Popovich's coaching tree. Like you got like those, I guess, like
the Nick Nurse tree is one of the most common trees in the league right now.
Well, I mean, if the Raptors are hiring up the Nick Nurse tree after firing Nick Nurse, I don't know about that.
Who's coming off the Nick Nurse tree?
Bjorkgren. I'm probably saying his name wrong. I don't remember exactly the name to the Pacers. Yeah. Not that worked well, but he was there. And then now Adrian Griffin, but
so isn't Chris Finch too?
Yeah, and Chris Finch. It's like 3 dudes in 4 years, which is pretty crazy.
Forgot about Borkin. Where was he even coaching at? I can't even think of the team.
I don't remember. don't remember where he went. I know he's an assistant or something like that somewhere, but I don't remember where he is now. Back with Toronto. Yeah, okay. Back with Toronto.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know whose coaching tree I'd want somebody off of. Now, the Mike Brown coaching tree might get pretty dangerous. I don't know. If we end up taking the Kings assistant, I wouldn't be upset. I would not be upset if you can bring some of what they did in the offensive side. A lot of if there's a lot of like the same roster as last year, some of that defense can probably carry over. It's just their half court offense was so shit. And I know you got to get like a real legit point guard for that to really help that as well. But like bringing in a coach from Sacktown, I'd be excited to watch that personally.
Agreed. I'm still pessimistically feeling very unoptimistic about our offseason, but who knows, man? Maybe we'll talk in a few weeks and I'll be happy, but I'd be surprised because I think there's very few avenues where I can be happy about our offseason because I think there's only one or two ways that are good, and I think those one or two ways are very unlikely to happen.
They're going to bring back everybody. That's exactly what's going
to
happen.
100% they
are. Y'all are talking about,
are.
Fred VanVleet, he's a Laker, he's a whatever. He's probably still a Raptor somehow.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone. But Gary's back, Podol's back, Siakam and Anunoby are not getting traded.
It's going to make me so mad, bro, if, like, the whole thing is you got, like, 80,000 fucking forwards on this roster, and it's like, oh, yeah, Fred, you can go, but we going to keep OG, and we going to keep Pascal, and we going to keep Scotty. Can y'all just let Scotty flourish? Bro, like, OG, we were talking about this in call last night. I'm not going to go as far as to say, who was it, Garrett saying OG was the most overrated player in the league. That was a little egregious, but as far as the trade packages, yeah, motherfuckers be wanting a package for OG Anunoby. When it's like, dog, if you gave me like a first round pick and a solid player, and by solid player I mean like a good starter and a first round pick, I'll give you OG Anunoby. Like, I just know because of the way the market is, when people like Rudy Gobert get 5 first round picks, like, yeah, you're gonna think, oh yeah, OG Anunoby could get you 3 first. And maybe because the way the market is, he will. But thinking rationally, it really isn't as much, but they won't get off of him. Pascal, listen, man, I know it's just becoming a meme at this point. That Pascal for number 3 and Anthony Simons, please.
If Portland does,
here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. If we know that we're getting Scoot Henderson at 3, I love it. If I know we're getting Brandon Miller at number 3, we're literally just trading Siakam for another fucking wing. Like, I don't need that in my life. As much as I don't mind it, I don't need another young wing in my team in my life. I just don't.
Hey, man, what do we say about going for fit? That high in the draft? It don't matter.
Maybe if you get off,
it would be the right pick. That doesn't mean I would like it.
If Portland does that, I'm slandering them for the rest of the time.
Yeah, I don't even want to get too deep into Portland, man. They're still. We might have went away for a couple weeks, but don't worry. The don't talk about them list is still very active.
Yeah, no, we're not going there. My what's next video for them is coming out sometime this week, and that's as much as they're getting talked about until the draft at the earliest. That is enough for them.
I'm surprised you're dropping that before the draft, to be honest. I know it's just an order of like who's like at the top of the draft, who are the worst teams, but like what happens draft night could really change so much for them.
Oh, probably, and then I'll probably make another one, but I had to give them one last rant just to hope that they finally wise up. But same thing with the Hornets. Like, my last Hornets video is only one video removed, but I couldn't deal with it, man. If these guys go out and draft Brandon Miller, I just can't. There's no way that this organization is going to be stupid enough to do that.
How do I feel about that? There's worse avenues that they could go. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Like even I don't know. I feel like everyone's split on it. Like even my poll I posted about it this morning is 62% Scoot, 38% Brandon Miller. Like it is not a consensus from anyone. But man,
And that might
he
even
just
be
seems way too good to pass up on.
Yeah, that's true. That is
Scoot's a
very
number one in a lot of drafts, man.
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And I think people that are concerned about the Scoot LaMelo fit are a little bit overplaying how poor of a fit it is. Not that, as me and Gabe talked about earlier, as I talked about in the video, at number 2 overall, your primary concern should probably not be fit. But even if you do want to consider that, I think LaMelo and Scoot can work together. Is it ideal? Probably not. But LaMelo's good enough off ball. He's a good enough 3-point shooter. He played with Lonzo growing up and had to play off ball. Like there can be adjustments made there, but obviously if you just are a Hornets fan and you've dealt with no wings for years and you see the chance to take a wing, I see the temptation, but
That's my only thing. Like they have the chance to get the best wing in the draft. Like that's why I said they can go worse avenues. But I agree. Just take the best player available. Scoots,
yeah.
like Gabe said, this guy's a number 1 pick and probably like 90% of drafts from like the last 10 years or so. Like he's probably the number 1 pick. So just take the best guy. I think Melo can play with anybody. I think LaMelo can play with any type of talent. And plus, like Detroit, like people probably could have had those same questions about Cade and Ivy, because they're 2 guys that are kind of like need the ball or whatever. But I think those guys will be fine. So, why would I not think Scoot and LaMelo Ball would not be okay playing together?
I mean, even if like they didn't end up panning out together, my thing is like LaMelo, don't get me wrong, is a great player, but this motherfucker is always injured, bro. Like he is actually injured so much, and it's not really talked about that much how often he's actually just out the lineup. That's not stopping me from drafting the best player available because there's a good chance if LaMelo don't figure out this injury stuff and is able to stay on the court for like a full season, hey man, like then you got Scoot. If Scoot Henderson is your contingency plan, is your number 1, all right. And if they do come back, like they got the skills to where they should be able to work together anyways. So I really don't think there's a situation where you lose by drafting them.
What I love the most, they're not small guards. I love that. Like, these guys are not small guards. It's a little different, like from other like you already have a guard. Why you draft another one? This is very like rare. Like you already have your, you want to be the franchise guy in LaMelo. But if, like Gabe said, if like LaMelo's the injuries keep on up, you got Scoot Henderson, and he can be the franchise guy going forward. So yeah, I do hope they do take Scoot. But if they take Miller, I wouldn't be like too mad about it. But they should take Scoot.
The other thing to consider too with them, I guess, for wings, even though I keep forgetting about it and I don't fully agree with it, but Miles Bridges probably is going to be back once he serves his suspension. I don't remember how long it is, but it seems like that's the way it's going to go. Do I agree with it? Not really, but such is reality. So they at least are going to have some wing talent back. And they do have a lot of flexibility too with Hayward's deal finally being tradable. They have 4 picks from pick 27 to 41 that they could either move up with to draft a wing or flip alongside a Thierry Rozier if you draft Scoot Henderson to try and get a wing. So they have a bit of flexibility that way too. So we'll see. I mean, I don't like talking about the Miles Bridges situation because I don't really think he should be back in a basketball court, but reality seems like it's progressing to the point that that's going to be the case. So objectively, I don't think he should be there, but if that's the way it's going to be, then they're not going to be as desperate for a wing.
It looks like the Bridges suspension it says.
Yeah, I think so much of it
Something
was
it's
already
like 30
deemed served.
games. It says it's like 30 games, but like 20 games were already served. So really, he's only suspended 10 games. So he'd be there for 72 games. Like,
yeah, I don't know how he already served 20, but whatever.
If he comes back, like,
hasn't even been under contract. That's weird.
If he's the same player, which I don't think he would come back and be exactly the same player, but it's not like he was like injured all hell. He just didn't play NBA basketball for a while. So there's gonna be
Be
like a
better than PJ
reacclimation
Washington.
period, I'm sure. But yeah, like he'd be a hell of a lot better than what they had. And if he continues on his like, I'm not gonna say star ascension, but he was looking damn good. And I don't want to get into like the should he be there. The truth of the matter is he's probably gonna be there. So if you got him, LaMelo, and Scoot, dog, that's a three that I like. Not to mention they finally got off Plumlee, and it looks like their center position is going in the right direction with the young guys they got over there. Like all of a sudden, you're in a pretty solid spot. So even more so, like with Bridges coming back, the necessity to take a wing, not even there as much. So you got him and LaMelo. Yeah, LaMelo's a little bit better, but Bridges is also more likely to be playing more games because LaMelo's injury history. So either way you go, this is why I'm Scoot. Take the better player.
Even if not, just explore getting the wing a different way. I think it's possible. Plus, they got like a bunch of like young guys that probably aren't gonna be in their long-term plans, like Book Knight, Kai Jones,
JT Thor.
Yeah, Jesse Thor, maybe even like Bryce McGowan. They got a lot of young guys that they could probably move off of, and teams would take a little flyer. So, Scoot is the pick that they should make. But knowing the Hornets and knowing the Blazers, the top of that draft could look a little more wonky than we want it to look.
Yeah, no doubt. That is a hell of a combination of teams at 2-3 to just make the draft look stupid and make someone a winner that shouldn't be a winner.
Yes. I just know, there's like an 80% chance in my mind that Portland trades that pick.
Oh, 100% they're trading that pick.
And it's for
There's no doubt in my mind they're trading that pick.
So it's gonna be so dumb.
It's going to the Celtics, bro.
Huh?
It's going to the Celtics for Jaylen Brown.
If Scoot fell to 3, I wouldn't hate it. I'll say that. If Scoot fell to 3, I would not hate it.
All right. Okay.
That's my honest opinion.
Because we were talking earlier about we don't know if the Celtics can trade for like future young type assets because they're a team who wants to compete now. You think you want to bring in Scoot? Does he fit the same timeline? Because like Jason Tatum's still like young, but also
not getting old anytime soon. By the time Scoot's like in his prime, JT or on that type of level, JT's probably gonna be like in his actual prime. So I wouldn't hate it. It would just definitely shift the timeline a little more. Like Al Horford's probably movable at that point. Rob's still pretty young. Maybe you explore a smart trade sometime down the line. Like it'll definitely make the timeline a little more different, but it sets yourself up to where you're not paying Jaylen Brown $300 million when he's probably like on a real good year, like a borderline NBA All NBA player, like with everybody being healthy. He might be like a borderline third team kind of guy, and you're not committing to that contract and basically saying we have to sign a bunch of guys to vet minimum. So I wouldn't hate it at all. Like if that's the direction you go, like I could accept it because it's not like that's not a win now move, but it's setting yourself up in the future to where like when JT's at his actual peak, Scoot should be coming into that like all-star type of mode, and you should be at least still ready to compete for championships at that point.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't hate that. I think there's an avenue where, like you say, it changes the timeline, but even though Smart has been better over the last couple of years, especially offensively compared to where he was a few years ago, obviously the addition of Brogdon was good this year. There's still an argument that a true point guard who can apply a lot more rim pressure and can be a bit of a better playmaker could be really beneficial to the Celtics roster and especially for Tatum. So I definitely don't mind that as to how they could look then 3-4 years down the road.
Yep.
Hey, can Scoot go to his left?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, man.
on a lower
I know a guy on the Celtics that, Jesus Christ. Watching that game 7, bro.
Oh, God. Aaron Gordon's about to have a feast.
You said who's expected to start?
Kevin Love.
I did see those narratives like earlier. I know we were talking about it, and you were like, "Yeah, I don't think they'll go to Kevin Love because Aaron Gordon will like feast on him if you play him at the wing." A lot of people were saying, "Oh, they should give Kevin Love minutes to like draw Jokic out the paint or like something like that. And I'm like,
What?
I'm
Who
like,
said that?
y'all know y'all got Bam Adebayo on the court, right? Like Bam Adebayo has a mid-range jumper, but like
That's crazy.
like-
That's a crazy comment.
Kate Love starting is Nuggets in 4.
Yeah, that's rough. Like, I know Aaron Gordon destroyed you in the post in game 1, but Aaron Gordon could also destroy you off the dribble if K Love's on him. So
no, that's just gonna work.
it's not gonna work.
That's gonna work. Listen,
That man
here's
is
why.
not touching the court in the second half. He's getting torched in the first quarter, and that man is sitting on the bench for the rest of the game. There's no shot.
This is why it's gonna work, bro. Because we all just are like, what the hell? Which just means it's just gonna work because isn't that how it always goes?
No, not in the finals. Not in the finals. Not against Denver. This Denver team's too good for that.
We really just Denver really made us eat our words, man. That's so tough.
And I ain't got no problem
All-time-
admitting when I'm wrong.
All time bad take.
Oh man, I would have started Hayward Highsmith before I would have started Kevin Love. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, well, I'll start Kyle Lowry before I start Kevin Love.
Well, that's also true, but I'd say that about 90% of that roster. So,
All respect to Kevin Love, man. This man has never missed the NBA Finals when he's made the playoffs. But
If you start Kevin Love, or no, if you start Kyle Lowry, I mean, best case scenario, he draws a couple charges and gets some of Denver's guys into foul trouble early. I think, like, at least there's that. I don't know about this Kevin Love thing, bro.
he could probably play better post defense than they were playing on Aaron Gordon in game 1.
you then have to remember, though, that means that Max Strus is dealing with Aaron Gordon or MPJ for at least 6 to 7 minutes at the start of the game. And then you have to consider whether you actually want to do that.
I think there was one series. It might have been the Bucks series. At some point, I think it was Kevin Love that was also like cooking motherfuckers on the charge drawing. Like it was getting egregious.
Yeah, and he hasn't really been good in any other series since then.
Is that the wait a second? Hold up. I have the rationale. It doesn't make any sense because I don't think Jokic is gonna guard him. But like say the Heat, when the Nuggets are on offense, they decide to put Jokic, like Kevin Love is guarding Jokic. Listen, bro. Some of them clips of Jokic, he be getting kind of aggressive on offense. Like, if there's a guy that can get that call, it might be Kevin Love. So all things considered, if it's just to try and play the gambit of like, can we get Jokic in foul trouble early? I understand. However, if you get halfway through the first quarter and Jokic is getting to the rack and he still doesn't have any fouls and it's not working, take that motherfucker out the game. But if you're playing a gambit to try and get Jokic into foul trouble early, I respect it. Respectful.
If I see Kevin Love on the court and I'm Jamal Murray, I am going to that 2-man action very early, and I'm getting up as many clean pull-up mid-range shots that I can to get my rhythm going, and I'm probably scoring 40.
100%.
You're probably right, but the gambit is there, and when you're outmatched like this, sometimes you do have to take a little bit of a risk.
No, I'd rather see them play, like Devin said, Hayward Highsmith. Shit, I'd rather see like Nikola Jokic get minutes at this point.
I can't blame you, man. At least it's a different look.
Get some
They gonna have Omer Yurt-7 getting finals minutes out there, bro.
Man, who do you got tonight, Trent? You got Miami or you got Denver? See what the Miami Heat fan is thinking.
We got Trent and Stream. Okay.
Yeah, Kevin Love starting, man. I don't know.
He said Miami. All right. Okay.
I respect it.
That's fair.
Man sticking with his fandom.
It's okay to be delusional sometimes. I'm sure
You picked Miami.
Said I'm a racing core. I'll pick Miami because I'll be making BS.
He just wanted to be different.
I did. You're right. That's exactly right.
I literally said, "Who do y'all think is going to win tonight?" And Gabe led his tangent by saying, "I don't think Miami's going to win,
but I'm going to pick them because sometimes you just don't go with your gut, and this is one of those times. They're starting Kevin Love. That shit gonna work somehow.
Man, this guy's gonna be the worst debater ever when we start having debates.
No,
this guy's gonna say, "I don't think my guy should win this," but
nah, because I'm not debating right now. If I'm actually trying to debate, like I'm gonna come out with the serious facts.
If I ask you who's gonna win the game, I want you to give me a convincing take on why you're gonna win.
All right, the Miami Heat are gonna win the game.
No, you already don't believe that they're gonna win.
All right. I was trying to give you the take.
Nah, it's too late. Bro. Just for future reference.
Listen, bro, because that was before I found out that Kevin Love was starting.
No, stop it. If you found out Kevin Love was starting before, you probably would have picked
I want to hear it.
Nah, bro. You guys are trying to paint me out as some monster, bro. Once I found out Kevin Love was starting and they were going for this gambit, I understand that Coach Spo is cooking something extra. Like, he's making a fucking 5-pan dinner right now. He got 2 fucking bacon sheets in the oven. That motherfucker's making a 5-star meal right now. And if you don't see that, listen, bro, you just got to buy into the vision. Jokic is going to have 3,000 in the first quarter because all that motherfucker does is go to the rim and push off with his forearms. Like, Jamal Murray, they're just going to put 2 dudes on Jamal Murray. Michael Porter Jr. is going to have a terrible shooting night. You got Haywood Highsmith minutes on Aaron Gordon. He locks him up just enough to get the job done. Max Strus makes like half of his threes. Duncan goes 60% tonight. Caleb Martin looks solid. And Jimmy Butler scores 13 points in the fourth quarter. And the Heat win by 5.
Bro basically just said take all of the Miami Heat's overs and all the unders for the Nuggets. That's what I heard.
That's what it's going to take for Miami to win, man.
Trent, you ain't wrong. Strus probably ain't going 0 for 10 again, but MPJ is also probably not going like 2 for 11 again either. That's the problem. Denver shot the ball terribly game 1, too.
I'm just saying, man. Y'all got to buy into the vision.
Give me Denver by 15.
Like Denver by 8.
I was going to say that, but Kevin Love started giving me by 15.
That's true. Them boys might be down 10 off rip, so.
I hope I'm wrong. I want this to be a longer series.
I'm about to sound like a genius, bro.
Okay.
Nah, there's no shot. There's no shot.
Hey, man. When Miami goes up 2-1, they're going to lose 3 straight and lose the series in 6. But I just wonder if Tyler Hero is back in game 3, I don't think that changes the outcome of the series. However, I'll be interested to watch and see how that changes Miami's flow.
Yeah,
Nuggets
I agree.
5 instead of 4.
Yeah.
Sadly, he's not what they need.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. They need a PJ Tucker to be returning from injury, not Tyler Hero.
PJ Tucker will be able to come back.
To be fair, I think
this was last year's thing. They got a better chance.
To win this series, I think they need a LeBron James to be coming back from injury. I'm not gonna lie, but
even LeBron got swept by this Nuggets team.
Yeah, but if you had LeBron and Jimmy Butler, I don't know, bro.
That's an interesting dynamic.
You know, low key, when is LeBron a free agent? 2024?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Him and Curry linking up somewhere. Bob Myers left the Warriors. It's over in Golden State. LeBron, he going to get up out the Lakers because everybody's going to leave this offseason. LeBron and Curry are about to win a ring while LeBron is 40 years old. Trust.
We're to the point in the podcast where Gabe's just talking.
Hey, bro.
Trent pulled up and he's like, okay, let me give Trent all the most egregious takes ever.
Nah, bro. Hear me out. Hey, nah, Trent. Listen, Trent, cool because Westbrook gonna be there too. Westbrook will be a nice little 6-man for them. We go. Dude, you
What's
missed
D
it
Rose
last
going to be the
night,
trainer
bro.
or what? Gonna have
You
all
missed it
the
last
reunion
night.
of all the boys?
Nah, bro. Garrett has given me too many O's. D Rose is not allowed to be there.
Damn.
You missed it, Reed. Last night in this fucking call, literally, they were debating. It was like Top Notch and NBA Addict both debating whether Westbrook shifted the culture of the Clippers against Garrett. They went for like an hour at least.
Bro.
Now let me ask you, Reek,
That is such a nuanced conversation.
do you think that Westbrook changed the culture of the Clippers?
Change the culture?
Yeah.
I don't know. He was only there for like 30 games.
Hey,
I don't know.
It is a bit of a small sample size.
They look a little better. I would say that.
I think he was a good fit in the organization. But I was telling Devin before the podcast, I think like Russ, I think the best reason why he's a good fit on the Clippers is because those dudes are always injured. And so there's that like lineup inconsistency. And when it's just like everything's turning into a dumpster fire, what does Russ do, bro? He takes you from the depths and he raises that floor. And so he's just going to like plug some of those holes and just like do enough while other guys are out to be that mini floor raiser. And then if he's willing to take a backseat and just play that defense like he was doing in the playoffs this year and just like let Kawhi and PG go to work, like I do think it's a good fit. I still think the Flippers are cooked either way, but.
Bro, that's your team, bro. Watch your mouth.
Hey, man, that ain't my team, man. That is not my team.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Trent. If we get a full season and things continue to be positive because of Russ, then I can see an argument for culture. I can listen to an argument that he helped the mentality last year to some extent, but I think there's like 1 to 2 guys in the league max that can change a culture in 2 to 3 months. There's just no way. That's a LeBron and probably only LeBron type influence.
Yeah.
That's a Patrick Beverly influence, bro.
I mean, it might change the culture. It doesn't mean it's always a good thing these days, but
I do feel like who had a bigger impact on the culture, like Russ on the Clippers or like Pat Bev on Chicago? Because Pat Bev went to Chicago and that was the best they looked all year. That was the best they looked all year, and he might not have had the best stats. Oh yeah, it was the best they looked all year. He got Kobe White playing like a real NBA player again.
Kobe White was starting to play good before then.
Oh, well.
Patrick Beverly ain't do shit other than steal minutes from Kobe White.
All I'm saying is that's the best they looked all season, man. So he changed the culture, bro. There was clearly according to Super Mario Hoops 24, they were actually 3 minutes away from the NBA Finals because they were up on the Heat before taking out Andre Drummond.
Garrett was making some pretty crazy arguments last night. I ain't gonna lie. Some pretty crazy arguments being made. To be fair, I also said that the Raptors came as close to beating Denver as the Lakers did to John. So
that was, bro. He was cooking you for that. Hey, however, Justin had a great point when he said the Timberwolves were closer to beating the Nuggets than the Lakers were. Objectively.
Yeah, they did win a game.
The Timberwolves stole one. Do you know how many the Lakers stole? Them motherfuckers got caught like in the checkout line. They didn't steal shit.
What is this pod turned into?
This is the edition of the podcast where there's like one basketball game every 3 days, and we have not started off-season content.
Good times, man. Good times.
It is start agonizing over my top 10 list time. It is draft research time. And that's about it.
I'm gonna come back
Jamal
next
Murray
week.
about to be number 5.
I'm gonna quiz you guys on where these prospects went to school.
Yeah, I might be better this year than I normally am, but that ain't saying much.
Okay.
If I get to research, I might be okay. But like last year, I knew where way more of the prospects were from because there was like a fair amount that were from like schools I'd seen. Like we had like Keegan Murray came out of Iowa, shit like that. Johnny Davis was out of Wisconsin. Jaden Ivey out of Purdue. Like
you're naming
because
all
because I went to school in the Big Ten and a lot of the top guys were Big Ten guys. I like was more familiar. Now I'm just like, dude, I don't know. Especially now that like
Brandon Miller,
Alabama.
Okay.
I know that one because he was like the best player in college.
What we can do is right now.
Death taxes and Reek saying where you go to college.
It never fails, bro. That's the 3-point weekly version of Pierre, bro.
Gotta make sure you're all up to speed. Where did Anthony Black go?
I don't even know who
I haven't got
is.
to him yet, so
I've never heard that name in my entire life.
I want to say Arkansas. But I could be wrong.
Good pull. Let me see some guys that y'all might know so far. Where did Cason Wallace go?
Never heard that name in my entire life,
Wallace.
bro.
Is he Villanova?
Nah. You're thinking of Cam Whitmore. That's
right. Yeah, I don't know where he went.
Really? I feel like this is somebody that Devin's really going to like. He went to Kentucky, though. He's somebody that you're really going to like. I can just see you like really liking this player. This is a name y'all should know. Keontae George. Where did he go to school?
Baylor.
Dang, Gabe. You get washed right now, bro.
I would not get one. If we did a what school he go to Jeopardy and it was all like incoming players, I would literally get 0 points.
All right, I'm gonna come back like next week or the week after.
Yeah, I know. I do got to do hella research, bro. The draft, this year has not been my specialty. I learned a fair amount of draft stuff like last year. This year, though, I'm like so washed. A lot of it was because I looked at so much just looking at mock drafts and stuff because so many of the Big Ten guys were up. So me and Rick were doing our college podcast last year for Ohio State. And so it was like, I got to check out the mock draft because I want to see where Jaden Ivey is in the next draft or even Ohio State's own guys. Like, where is Malachi Brandon about to go in the draft? So it's like, and then you're like, oh, who are these guys going above him? And you just get more familiarized with everybody. This year, Ohio State was ass at basketball, so I wasn't paying that much attention to, like, colleges around us. And then the rest of the Big Ten, like, a lot of the top prospects really aren't Big Ten guys this year. So then the same token, it's like I wasn't really seeing a lot of them in, like, OSU's games. So there's a lot of research to do. I haven't had much reasons to look at mock drafts because there was no, like, prospects that I was super like, oh, where are they going to go? Because I really want to know.
To be fair, to a lot of the top guys, like at least top 10, like prospects this year, a lot of them didn't go to college. They were either OTA, or overseas. So
very true.
I feel like those guys are harder to predict too, just because like sample size wise, players coming from overseas are definitely like there's a better track record just because there's better scouting over there now, but it still is always going to be a little bit of a risk compared to like just you've seen guys come up from college and you know what to look for just like pretty consistently.
Devin, you're really going to like Jordan Walsh too.
Jordan Walsh, okay.
went to Arkansas, you're really gonna like him.
I'm gonna get clipped.
I
Listen,
think he's on my list. I
I'm
have him
just
on my list.
saying.
I hope so.
Sometimes I do just do
Yeah,
stuff for
dude.
content, man. I'm well known for saying BS for content.
Not wrong.
I am the 3-Point Weekly Skip Bayless.
Kevin O'Connor has Miller ranked as the second best prospect. He's got Scoot at 3. Interesting.
Kobe Buffkin is a guy I really like too. Really like what I've seen from him.
Let's look at Bleacher Report's mock draft. What do they got here? Victor.
I don't know if I would say my favorite might be Anthony Black so far. I do like Jordan Hawkins a lot from UConn.
Yeah, he'll be solid for sure.
G.G. Jackson has a lot of upside.
The Rockets take a Thompson twin. Okay.
The Rockets taking a Thompson twin if they also get James Harden would be absurd. Jalen Green, KPJ, Harden, and a Thompson would be crazy.
Jarris Walker's another good one.
They're saying they take Amin Thompson. Amin? Okay. Thompson, yeah. They're saying they want to take him because Osar is an erratic decision maker. And the last thing that Houston needs is another erratic decision maker.
I don't really know how to like grade their film because OT was not like the best basketball to really grade people on.
Yeah, you almost have to go back and find their international ball to get the best competition for him.
Ooh, Cam Whitmore is a Piston. He's going to be my favorite pick in the draft. Pistons get a nice wing. A Villanova guy, too. If there's one thing you know about Villanova guys, they're going to be a well-rounded basketball player.
Yeah, Pistons got some interesting decisions to make.
Definitely.
Wait, but they got Anthony Black to Orlando? Since when do they need another guard?
Too many guards, man.
Since they're gonna move off Suggs, probably.
Yeah, that's the only way. But they're like, they kind of projected like similar type of players to me.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, it's like I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in a 2 because I don't think Suggs is going to be their starting 2, and Cole Anthony is probably going to be their 6th man. So they probably want someone at the 2 long term because Gary Harris probably isn't going to be around past this year.
They got Asar Thompson at number 8. Damn. I didn't know the Thompson twins had that much of a discrepancy. I thought they were supposed to both be like top 5 picks.
Nah, Amen's definitely like always been rated higher than what I've seen.
Yeah, especially over the last few months. I think earlier on in the year they might have been a bit more both up top, but
yeah.
Amen's kind of separated himself the last few months.
Utah Jazz would take a motherfucker named Grady Dick.
I don't know if they need him.
I wouldn't mind him in Orlando.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind him in Orlando either. I think he fits better there than Utah. Like I feel like Agbaji already does what Dick's gonna do. Like I feel like that's just too redundant.
Hold up. Derek Lively to OKC, good rim protector and pick and roll defender, big man.
Yeah, I'd like that.
I like the vision, man. I like the vision.
It's the only thing they really need is a big. So
who they got?
That's gonna be interesting, man. Excited. Trace Jackson stayed in the draft. Interesting. If you're going to love Jordan Walsh, bro, I already know you are.
So wait, Metropolitan is 92. That's the team Victor plays for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Raptors are about to take his teammate.
Potential for it, for sure.
Philo Koulibaly. That's a Raptors guy right there, bro.
Bringing
That's
another wing seems about right.
That's a Raptors guy right there. Dude, pick 13. That's like one of those late lottery picks that has good luck. We need that.
Shades of OG and Torrey Craig.
That's a hell of a combo. Like what? Like Torrey Craig does what OG does, just worse.
Talking about playoff. Talking about playoff riser Torrey Craig.
Maybe that's what they're saying.
Round riser, maybe.
At his peak, maybe at his peak, OG at his worst, Torrey Craig.
Yeah, that would make more sense. I was gonna say shades of those guys is a bit weird.
Chris Murray to the Kings. Damn.
I mean, they're gonna need someone at the 4, so I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Bryce Sensabaugh to the Grizzlies.
At what pick?
25.
Okay.
I wonder if he falls that deep.
I don't know if he's at the board then, but could be.
He's probably in that like.
You think Bryce Sensabaugh goes before that?
He's probably in the like that 18 to like 27, 8 range.
Motherfuckers thought EJ Liddell was gonna be like top 20. Motherfucker went like 40. I don't trust Ohio State guys in the draft, bro. At this point, I just think they're all about to fall.
I feel like this is definitely the type of draft that could see guys rise or fall more than any other, though.
Yeah.
It's a lot of variability once we get out of the first 5-6 picks.
Omari Bailey at 28. He's like one of the few names I actually know. I didn't know he went that late. I like was projected that
BR has him that high.
Yeah, BR has him 28.
Kevin O'Connor doesn't even have him in the top 40 prospects.
Damn.
He doesn't have him in the top 40. He doesn't have Amani Bates in the top 40. Which is real.
Ooh, Trace Jackson Davis to the Kings. Kings getting all the Big Ten guys.
He's got Homie Hopkins at 28. His comparisons are always so funny.
Amani Bates at 51.
You sound surprised.
That's just like one of the only names I know, and he's like barely getting drafted.
Real. Chris Murray. Guess who he has shades of?
Keegan Murray, his brother.
It says left-handed Keegan Murray. That's funny.
He's a left-handed Keegan Murray, but they got him going that much later. They had him going like 24.
Because he's not as good. Okay. He's good.
If he's just his brother but left-handed, his brother's pretty fucking good.
Well, his brother was a top 5 pick.
His brother was pick number 4, and I liked it.
If you might like comparisons are notoriously bad, so
yeah, Kevin O'Connor's comparisons are good. But he has this guy Noah Clowney from Bama, shades of Wendell Carter. So that's true. You might like him.
That's my man right there.
Favorite prospect on the lot.
No doubt. That's all I needed to hear. I feel like I've seen this dude. Yeah.
Derek White, shades of Willie Cauley-Stein.
6'10", 220. Averaged about a block. Shot 28% from 3. Yeah, that seems like Wendell numbers. Sounds about right.
I like Nick Smith too. I think I like everybody from Arkansas this year. I like all.
They do have quite a few good dudes this year.
I think I'll have like my top 5 prospect list by next week.
I don't even remember. Was it UConn? Who the hell won March Madness this year?
It was UConn, yeah. Yeah.
Bro, it was for real. Like, there was just so many upsets. I'm like, wait, who even made it far? Wasn't the final four like what? It was like them, Miami,
FAU,
Florida Atlantic, and San Diego State, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
FAU was the one I was forgetting about. Yeah. Dude,
that's what I should do. I should just do draft research all of Monday night. Be sitting in a hotel room for like 4 or 5 hours. I should just watch draft film all night.
I don't work again until Wednesday, so I just got 2 days just to vibe, man.
I'm back at it tomorrow, but I'm gonna be posted up in a hotel room all night in the middle of nowhere, so might be a draft research night.
Gotta do what you gotta do. Might have to. I think tomorrow is time to make a new video, man. I got sidetracked with a vacation and then a new job, but I still got my notes for things to try out.
For sure. Yeah, I just posted one after a month. Jelson just posted one after a few weeks. It's that vibe.
Babe, what day of the week is the draft on? Thursday? I feel like the draft's always on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's the
22nd. Yeah. Am I in a hotel room? No, I'm not. Oh, right. No, I'm actually back in PA that weekend. Or that week. Nice. I'll actually be able to stream that from the setup.
I hear my dog going crazy, man. Can y'all hear my dog going crazy?
Yeah.
All right. Bro, I was sick literally like right when we started, right? I'm sitting here. We're literally talking about like the first thing. I think it was the Celtics. Bro, right as I start, this dog starts going fucking nuts. The garage opens and closes. I'm like,
it's all good. There's so much background noise.
I'm like, bro,
so you're fine.
There ain't no way. See, if it happens like a little bit later into it, it's okay. But like right at the fucking beginning of the pod, I'm like, bro.
I think we were just talking about the Celtics. Nothing important.
Yeah, nothing important. Just the bum ass Celtics. I hate Boston, bro. I was getting so upset. It was living in my head rent free. Like every single time, like Boston won game 4, and I'm like, all right, you know what? I understand. You can't go out that sad. Like, gentlemen, Jimmy Butler is a gentleman. The Celtics won game 5. I'm like, these motherfuckers, dude. Can y'all go? I'm like, I'm just trying to get to the finals already. Like, can y'all motherfuckers just relax? These dudes won game 6. I'm like,
it's always that fake comeback from them, bro.
They won game 6. I'm just sitting here like just genuinely angry because if there's one thing I just don't want anymore, it was just the 8 zillion Boston fans that were going to be on Twitter talking about this comeback. It was just going to be so excruciating. And I'm like, Boston, y'all have had enough, bro. Like, y'all got 17 banners, even though 16 are before color TV. Then y'all got like, 6 or 7 Super Bowls, which are actually modern. You know, I feel like I'm not that big on baseball, but I know like the Celtics, or not the Celtics, the Red Sox are like seemingly always pretty good. And then the Bruins did just have a legendary sell job. So on the hockey front, they are kind of facing some tough times right now. But if the Celtics would have done that, bro, Boston's had enough. And if they would have done that, I very rarely hate watch. But when it was like, we going to see the 8 seed go to the finals, and of all 8 seeds is Jimmy Butler, and the fucking Celtics were about to stop it, dude, it was living rent-free in my head.
Bro, just a hater.
I'm a Celtics hater, bro. There's very few sports organizations I hate, but the Boston Celtics are pretty much the city of Boston in general.
Bro hates Boston and Cleveland.
Yeah. Something about Boston teams, bro. I think it's just because they all have annoying fan bases.
That's fair. Not disagreeing with you there.
Which is weird because, like, I don't for real, like, hate the Lakers, but I think it's just because the past couple of years, the Lakers have been so down bad that, like, it's just been fun to just watch them completely unravel as a fan base. So then finally being able to have some good things, I'm like, you know what? Y'all entertained me for years.
That's fair.
I'll give it to you. The Celtics, I think my Celtics hatred just really started when they were playing the Raptors, man. Those series that we had against the Marcus. Like, I'm forever a Marcus Smart hater for what he did in the bubble.
That's fair. I understand.
Most of the actual, like, there's not that many NBA teams I hate, though. Most of my hate watching is in football, where I just hate watch Pittsburgh and Kansas City and usually Baltimore as well.
Teams that I hate.
In football, your team's division stinks, so you ain't even got to worry about none of them.
I still hate on those teams, bro. Like the Falcons. The Falcons offered me they would have to offer me like $1 million to work for that organization. That's how much distaste I have for that.
You not A-Town down, bro?
No.
I'm A-Town down.
I don't even like the city of Atlanta, to be honest, but yeah.
I don't know if I like my Cowboys, but I don't know if I can say I hate any of our divisional teams. I don't think I can say I hate anyone in the NBA too. I just hate certain front offices.
That's fair.
But I don't know if I hate teams. I just
too
front
Canadian,
office hate.
Man. He's too Canadian. He just likes every team.
I dislike Laker fans. Most of them. Like 95% of the fan base.
Yeah, Top Notch about to grill you for not hating the Eagles, bro.
I don't know, man. I just don't be hate watching.
If you a Cowboys fan, I feel like you gotta hate the Eagles. Like,
I don't know, man. I don't be feeling that type of way. Now, maybe if they kick our ass for another 2 or 3 years, then I might hate them. But for now, I'm good. I'm good for now.
Half of Cincinnati likes the Steelers, so I gotta hate watch, man.
That's weird. Imagine having an NFL team in the city and like half the fans don't even like the team. That's crazy.
It's because they were ass forever. They did absolutely nothing between like 1990 and Joe Burrow.
That's disgusting, bro.
That is still rough. Hell, I'm like ages away from my hockey team I support in Buffalo. And I supported them for the last 15 years while they've been trash. And I have every viable reason to be able to make a justification to jump ship. You got a team in your own city and you can't even support them? Man.
That's why I'm mainly a Cincinnati fan in like everything except for they didn't have a basketball team. So I just picked one. And apparently I picked 7 of them. But I made it pick their Raptors.
What was the details of our podcast?
The Kirk versus Dak argument yesterday was so stupid. It was really funny, but it was so stupid.
This, like, somehow you could be having a conversation. Y'all, name the most random NBA player y'all know.
Brandon Bass.
We could be having a conversation about Brandon Bass, and somehow Jelson would find a way to make it about Minnesota sports teams.
For real.
It's
One
crazy.
thing about Jelson, man, that man loves his Minnesota sports.
He loves his city, man. He loves.
I'll
He is
respect him for
loyal to
that,
the
but
city for
man.
sure.
He loves his city, bro. I love talking football right now because I finally got legs to stand on. I didn't for the first like 18 years of my life, but now we're talking about football. Hey, man, unless there's like 3 teams you could be a fan of where I'm like, all right, yeah, y'all got the Bengals beat out, but like for the most part, we back and forth with Kansas City. We always whoop on Buffalo. Just chill, man. Just chill.
Yeah, we can only got one NFL team. Be mad if you had like 6 NFL teams if you do basketball.
Yeah, Jelson was coming up with a couple of crazy trades yesterday. Do you remember what the cat trade was, Gabe? He had the one crazy cat trade. I don't remember what it was though.
No, but there was one that was like stupid. I feel like it was to Portland. It might not have been.
Right. Yeah. If it was Nurkic, the pick and something, probably Anthony, but oh man. Oh, for Kyrie, right. For Kyrie. Trent's got it unlocked. That was a crazy proposal.
Yeah, quite a few thoughts for Kyrie. Those trades.
Kyrie, Conley, and Anthony Edwards, with Lord knows who at center. Oh man.
God.
Kyrie. Oh man.
Yeah, those. Yeah. I don't know. I think the one thing with NBA fandom versus NFL fandom is like, because there's so much player movement, it's like I start liking basketball and I'm like, oh, like I like the Raptors. And then within like 3 years, it's like, oh, this dude DeMar DeRozan that I really like in the Raptors, oh, he's on the Spurs. So now I kind of root for the Spurs. Then it's like Kawhi comes to town. And it's like, oh, he wins us a ring. So I really like this Kawhi guy. And now he's on the Clippers. So now it's like, I kind of suddenly root for the Clippers too. And it's like, you like this team, and then guys that are on that team go different places, and you're like, well, I still want to root for him. So then you're watching that team play, and you're like, oh, yeah, I want to see them do good things because I want to see this player I like succeed. And just because that player movement, it's like hard to for real like hate that many organizations, because there's a good chance that unless you like a team with super high roster retention, like there's going to be a guy that you liked playing for your organization that is now through no like ill will or like bad breakup, like a KD to Golden State type thing, just through just natural stuff. Guys that you liked on your favorite team are now just somewhere else, and you want to see them succeed as well. But if they play the Raptors, if the Clippers play the Raptors, if the Warriors play the Raptors, any of these players I like, if they play the Raptors, I'm still rooting for the Raptors to win at the end of the day.
This man be pulling up in his Kawhi jersey.
Right.
I got a Vince Carter T-shirt and a Vince Carter jersey sitting 5 feet away from me right now, man.
That don't mean nothing.
All right, okay. I think the biggest test of how you feel about anything is what you do with your pockets.
The real ones be pulling up with the Raptors merch on.
I empty out my pockets for the Raptors, man. So.
Man. Y'all got anything else though? Game about to start.
Yeah, I should probably wrap it up and grab a bit of food before I sit down and watch Denver smack Kevin Love.
This game, yeah, I think we're doing a little Discord watch party or something. So,
word.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of 3 Point Weekly. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more NBA content. Be sure to leave your thoughts down below on if Denver are indeed going to take care of Miami, or if Miami do still have a chance in this NBA Finals. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.